The galaxy is a tapestry of 1,000,000 worlds, each bound by the ancient light of hyperspace lanes and the mystical currents of the Force. For thousands of years, civilizations rose and fell beneath binary suns and within nebular clouds, guided by Jedi wisdom or Sith ambition, but always constrained by the fundamental laws that govern this realm of existence. The Force flowed through all living things. Hyperspace connected the stars. Droids served their organic masters. Species coexisted, however uneasily, in a grand experiment of galactic civilization. But the universe is vaster than any single galaxy. Beyond the edge of known space, in dimensions where reality itself screams and writhes, there exists another kind of humanity. One that knows nothing of the Force. One that has never heard of Jedi or Sith. One that worships a corpse god sitting upon a throne of gold, and in his name wages eternal war against everything that is not human. The warp rift opened without warning in the outer rim, near the Tingle Arm, a tear in the fabric of reality itself, vomiting forth vessels that should not exist. They were not the sleek, elegant constructions of Republic engineers or the utilitarian blocks of Separatist foundries. These were cathedrals given horrific life. Kilometers of Gothic architecture fused with weapon batteries, their hulls bearing the skulls of 1 billion dead and the eagle-winged aquila of an empire that spans 1,000,000 worlds. The Explorator Fleet Adamant Revelation had been charting unknown regions of the Halo stars when the warp claimed them. Navigator Septimus had screamed as the Astronomicon, the psychic lighthouse that guided all Imperial vessels, simply vanished, replaced by an impossible silence. The Geller fields flickered and failed. The ships tumbled through a kaleidoscope of madness. And then, with the grinding violence of tectonic plates colliding, they were spat out into real space. Into a galaxy at war. Tech priest Magos Brennus VII was the first to realize they were not in the Imperium anymore. His 17 augmetic eyes scanned stellar cartography data that matched nothing in the Mechanicus archives. Unknown constellations, uncharted systems, and most disturbing of all, the complete absence of the warp's psychic background radiation. This space was clean in a way that terrified him. The fleet was substantial, even by Imperial standards. The flagship, Undying Conviction, was a lunar-class cruiser, 8 kilometers of armored wrath, bristling with lance batteries and macro cannons. Escorting her were 3 sword-class frigates, 2 transport barks carrying the 17th Cadian Regiment, some 15,000 Imperial Guardsmen, and a single, precious strike cruiser of the Blood Raven Space Marine chapter, the Litany of Fury, bearing 2 full companies of Astartes. Captain Cyrene of the Blood Ravens stood in the observation deck of his vessel, his crimson power armor reflecting the strange stars beyond. He was 300 years old, had fought orcs and chaos cultists across a dozen sectors, and now stared at a galaxy that felt fundamentally wrong. Not corrupted, not tainted by chaos, just other. "My lord," Sergeant Tarkus voxed through the internal channel. "Augur arrays detect vessels approaching. Unknown configuration. They are hailing us." "In Gothic?" "Negative. Unknown language. Tech priests are attempting translation." Cyrene's eyes narrowed behind his helmet. "Unknown humans? Impossible. The Imperium was all of humanity. Everything else was Xenos filth or heretical traitors. But if these were humans corrupted by some unknown influence, they would be purged. The Emperor's will would be done." The approaching vessels were small, nothing like the grand warships of the Imperial Navy. Sleek, almost elegant, painted in whites and reds. They moved with a precision that suggested advanced sensor technology. At their head flew a ship bearing the seal of the Galactic Republic. Commander Plo Koon sat in the command chair of the Resolute, his Keldor mask reflecting the amber light of his tactical displays. The sudden appearance of these massive vessels had triggered every alarm in the sector. They had emerged from nothing. No hyperspace signature, no Separatist transponders, just brutal, ancient-looking warships that radiated menace. Master Plo, his clone communications officer reported, "We're receiving no response to our hails. Their ships they're massive, sir. Sensor readings indicate armor thickness beyond anything in our database. Power signatures are off the scale." Plo Koon felt a disturbance in the Force. Not the malevolent corruption of the dark side, but something else. A vast, cold emptiness that seemed to reject the Force itself. Billions of minds, locked in absolute certainty, drowning out individual will in a sea of fanatical devotion to something he could not perceive. "Continue hailing," he ordered calmly. "Prepare fighters, but do not adopt an aggressive posture. We do not know their intentions." On the bridge of undying conviction, Admiral Karathos received the translated message. The Xenos vessels, for what else could they be with their alien aesthetics, were demanding identification and purpose. They claimed to represent something called the Galactic Republic and requested peaceful communication. Karathos was a veteran of the Gothic War. He had seen entire sectors burn. He knew the only good Xenos was a dead Xenos. "Send the standard Explorator response," he commanded. "Inform them that they are in the presence of the Imperium of Man, rightful rulers of the galaxy. They will submit to Imperial authority or be destroyed. The Emperor protects." The bridge crew echoed, "The Emperor protects." When the translation came through to the Resolute, Plo Koon felt his heart sink. The message was not a greeting. It was an ultimatum. Submit or die. No negotiation, no diplomacy. Just absolute, uncompromising authority backed by enough firepower to crack planets. "Master Plo," his tactical officer warned, "their weapon batteries are charging. Lance signatures detected. Pure energy weapons, power levels exceeding turbo laser outputs." Plo Koon made his decision in a heartbeat. "All ships, evasive maneuvers. Launch all fighters. Get us out of..." The void lit up with the fury of the Imperium. Lance batteries, each capable of punching through kilometers of rock, speared across space. The first salvo vaporized a Republic corvette instantly, its shields meaningless against the concentrated energy. Macro cannon shells, each the size of a transport speeder, followed, filling space with explosive death. The Resolute rolled hard, its helmsman's reflexes saving the ship as a lance beam carved through the space they had occupied a second before. "Return fire," Plo Koon commanded, his calm shattering into urgency. "All batteries, target their lead vessel." Turbo lasers flashed, emerald bolts hammering into the undying conviction's void shields. The first few salvos dissipated harmlessly against the shimmering barrier. The next dozen began to strain them. Then the V-19 Torrent starfighters were among the Imperial fleet, their laser cannons strafing the frigate Righteous Scorn. On the bridge of the Litany of Fury, Captain Cyrene watched the enemy fighters swarm like insects. Fast, maneuverable, exploiting blind spots in the Imperial fleet's formation. "Launch Thunderhawks," he ordered. "Boarding action. Target their command vessel. We take their leaders alive for interrogation. If they are human, we will save them from their heresy. If they are Xenos wearing human skin, we will cleanse them." 20 Thunderhawk gunships, each carrying a squad of Space Marines, roared from the strike cruiser's launch bays. They were built like flying fortresses, armored to survive point defense fire, armed with heavy bolters and assault cannons. They punched through the furball of starfighters, ignoring the laser fire that scorched their hulls, heading straight for the Resolute. Plo Koon felt it through the Force, the approaching threat. Not droids, not clones. Something else. Something that radiated grim purpose and utter conviction. "Boarding parties incoming," his tactical officer shouted. 30 seconds to impact. "All hands, repel boarders," Plo Koon commanded, igniting his lightsaber. The blue blade hummed to life as he strode toward the hangar bay. "Commander Wolf, prepare your men. We have visitors." The Thunderhawks hit the Resolute's hangar bay like meteors, their assault ramps slamming down before they had fully stopped. And then the galaxy met the Adeptus Astartes. They were giants. 7.5 feet of crimson ceramite, each bearing a bolter that roared like thunder. Brother Sergeant Avitus was first off the ramp, his storm bolter chattering as mass-reactive rounds tore through the first rank of clone troopers. The explosive rounds detonated inside their targets, turning white armor into red mist. "For the Emperor!" Avitus bellowed, his voice amplified by his helmet's voxcaster. "Purge the Xenos!" The clone troopers returned fire, their DC-15 blasters punching into ceramite. Some rounds sparked harmlessly off power armor. Others found seals and joints, burning through. One Astartes staggered as a sustained barrage cracked his breastplate. He did not fall. He simply raised his bolter and continued firing. Then Plo Koon arrived. The Jedi Master moved with the Force flowing through him, his lightsaber a blur of blue light. He deflected bolter rounds, not easily. They were faster and more massive than blaster bolts, but with deep concentration and precognition guiding each movement. One round he redirected into an Astartes neck seal. The explosive detonated, and the warrior stumbled, bleeding. Avitus turned his storm bolter toward this new threat and fired a sustained burst. Plo Koon called upon the Force, creating a barrier of pure energy. The bolter rounds hammered against it, some deflecting, others detonating mid-flight. The Jedi Master pushed forward, his lightsaber sweeping toward Avitus's weapon. The plasma blade met the storm bolter and carved through it like parchment. Avitus discarded the ruined weapon and drew his combat knife, a 2-foot adamantium blade. He lunged with the speed of a striking serpent, transhuman reflexes driving the knife toward Plo Koon's chest. The Jedi twisted, the blade scoring across his robes, and swept his lightsaber in a devastating arc. The blade bit into Avitus's armor at the shoulder joint, burning through ceramite and into flesh beneath. The Astartes roared in pain, but grabbed Plo Koon's wrist with his free hand, squeezing with enough force to shatter Duraplast. The Jedi Master gasped, feeling bones grind, and called upon the Force. Avitus flew backward, slammed into a bulkhead by invisible hands, his armor crumpling from the impact. He slumped, unconscious, but alive. Around them, the battle raged. Clone troopers fought with disciplined fury, but the Astartes were individually superior, shrugging off wounds that would kill normal men. Yet the clones had numbers and coordination, and they were Mandalorian trained. They targeted joints and helmet seals, worked in fire teams, used grenades and heavy weapons. One Astartes fell, his helmet shattered by a point-blank rocket. Another was brought down by sustained fire from an entire squad. But they took terrible tolls. The hangar deck was a charnel house, and in space, the fleets tore at each other. The Undying Conviction's void shields finally failed under the combined assault of 3 Venator-class star destroyers, and turbo-laser fire began chewing into her armored hull. But her lance batteries replied, carving one Venator in half at the midpoint, the kilometer-long vessel breaking apart in a spectacular explosion. Admiral Karathos watched his fleet being bled, ship by ship. These were not the crude orcs or heretical traitors he had fought before. These were disciplined, technologically advanced opponents who fought with tactical brilliance. "Astropathic Choir," he commanded. "Send message to fleet. Disengage. Fall back to the nearest system. We need intelligence and reinforcements." But the astropaths stared at him with hollow eyes. "My lord, there is no Astronomicon. We cannot reach the Imperium. We are alone." For the first time in his 40-year career, Admiral Karathos felt fear. If you want to see how the Imperium's ruthless crusade collides with the Force itself, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and universe you'd want to see clash in the comments below. Let's explore the infinite together. The warp rift had not brought the Imperium to a new sector of their own galaxy. It had thrown them into a universe that operated by rules they did not understand, facing enemies they had never imagined. Cut off from everything they had ever known, the galaxy would learn what it meant to face the Imperium of Man. And the Imperium would learn that fanaticism alone cannot overcome the Force. The retreat was orderly, but costly. Admiral Karathos pulled his fleet back through the debris field, leaving behind 2 frigates and 700 dead. The Resolute did not pursue. It couldn't. Plo Koon's flagship limped through space with 3 gaping wounds in its hull, emergency force fields barely containing the atmosphere. 200 clones dead, 37 wounded, and in the brig, secured with every restraint the ship possessed, 1 space marine. Brother Sergeant Avidus regained consciousness in a cell designed for Separatist prisoners. His armor had been removed by industrial cutting tools. The clones had needed an hour to breach the ceramite, and even then, the removal had been surgical. His genetically enhanced body was bound by durasteel cables wrapped around his wrists, ankles, and torso. Anchored to the deck with magnetic clamps rated for 20 tons. It would not be enough if he truly wanted to break free. But Avidus remained still, analyzing. He had been trained for capture scenarios, though none involving Xenos like these. They looked human, disturbingly so. But humans who consorted with Xenos, who built ships that rejected the Emperor's glory, who wielded powers that reeked of witchcraft. The door hissed open. Plo Koon entered, his Keldor mask covering his face, his robes still scorched from battle. Behind him stood Commander Wolf, his clone commander, with a DC-17 hand blaster aimed at the prisoner's head. "I am Jedi Master Plo Koon of the Galactic Republic," the Keldor began. His voice filtered through his mask, but calm, measured. "You and your people attacked without provocation. We seek to understand why." Avidus stared at him with eyes that had seen 1,000 battlefields. When he spoke, his voice was deep, each word carrying the weight of absolute certainty. "We are the Adeptus Astartes, the Emperor's Angels of Death. You infest this sector with your Xenos filth and heretical constructs. There is no understanding required, only cleansing." Plo Koon felt the cold emptiness radiating from this warrior. Not hatred, not passion, but something far more chilling. Absolute conviction. The man before him truly believed every word. "We are not your enemies," Plo Koon said gently. "We seek peace, coexistence. Your fleet appeared in our space. We attempted communication. Your admiral responded with violence." "Peace?" Avidus's lip curled. "There is no peace among the stars, only an eternity of war. You are either servants of the Emperor or you are dust. Your choice." Commander Wolf's finger tightened on his trigger. "Say the word, General, and I'll..." "No." Plo Koon raised a hand. "He believes what he says. This is not malice. This is..." He searched for the word. "Programming." Avidus laughed, a harsh bark. Programming is for machines, Xenos. We are the Emperor's will made flesh. We were created to protect humanity from everything that would destroy it. And you, with your alien features and your witchcraft, are exactly what we were designed to kill. Plo Koon studied the giant warrior. Through the Force, he could sense the modifications to his body. Genetic enhancements far beyond anything the Kaminoans had achieved with the clones. Multiple organs, redundant systems, a walking weapon designed for perpetual war. But beneath it, something else. A buried fragment of the boy this warrior had once been, smothered under centuries of indoctrination. "You are human?" Plo Koon asked. "I am Astartes," Avitus replied. "More than human, humanity's future and protector." "And you serve this Emperor?" "The God Emperor of mankind," Avitus corrected, his voice carrying reverence. "Who has sat upon the golden throne for 10,000 years, guiding humanity through the darkness. Every world we take in his name. Every Xenos we purge for him." Plo Koon felt a chill through the Force. 10,000 years of this, an entire civilization built on endless crusade. "And if we refuse to submit?" Avitus met his gaze without flinching. "Then you will learn what exterminatus means." 27 light-years away, the Imperium fleet regrouped in an unnamed system the Mechanicus had designated Sigma Tertius. 3 barren worlds orbited a dying red star. No life, no resources worth exploiting. But it offered concealment and time to assess their catastrophic situation. Captain Cyrene stood in the strategium of the Litany of Fury, surrounded by his command squad and senior officers. The hololithic display showed their tactical situation. 8 ships remaining from an 11-ship fleet. Supply reserves at 78%. Ammunition stocks depleted by 19% from a single engagement. And most damning of all, no way home. "The warp is gone," Magos Brenna 7 intoned, his augmetic voice stripped of emotion. "Preliminary analysis suggests we have been transported to another dimension entirely. The fundamental constants of this universe differ from our own. The immaterium does not exist here, or if it does, we cannot perceive it." "Then we are truly alone," Captain Cyrene said quietly. "The Emperor cannot hear us. The Astronomicon is dark. We are orphans in a hostile galaxy." "Not orphans, my lord." Colonel Commissar Drekken of the 17th Cadian spoke up, his augmetic eye whirring. "We are the Imperium. Wherever we stand, the Emperor's domain extends. This galaxy will learn his light, or it will burn." Cyrene appreciated the sentiment, but he was 300 years old and pragmatic. "We are 8 ships and 15,000 guardsmen against an unknown galaxy. We need intelligence. We need to understand the strategic landscape, and we need resources. We have a prisoner," Brother Librarian Isidore reminded him. Isidore was one of the chapter's psychers, trained to channel the warp's power without succumbing to demonic corruption. But here, in this place where the warp did not exist, his powers were silent. He felt crippled. "The Xenos we captured before the retreat. Perhaps interrogation would yield—" "Not a Xenos," Cyrene interrupted, pulling up a picked capture on the display. It showed clone troopers removing their helmets after the battle, human faces, each identical. They are human, or were, before whatever corruption claimed them. The room fell silent. Humans fighting for Xenos masters, humans who attacked the Astartes without hesitation. It was a scenario they had encountered before. Chaos cultists, heretics who had turned from the Emperor's light. But these seemed different, organized, militaristic. not the gibbering madness of the chaos touched. Heretics or slaves? Colonel Commissar Drekken mused. If slaves, we may liberate them. If heretics, the Emperor's mercy is a bolt round. There's something else. Magos Brennus 7 continued, his mechadendrites manipulating data streams. Analysis of captured technology reveals sophistication equal to or exceeding Imperial standards in several areas. Their faster-than-light travel does not utilize the warp. It appears to be a stable, predictable system based on dimensional folding. Their energy weapons are efficient, their sensors precise, their fighters agile beyond our interceptor capabilities. Admiral Karathos leaned forward. You're saying they're technologically superior? In some areas, yes. In others, inferior. They lack void shields. Their armor is lighter. Their weapons prioritize precision over overwhelming force. But their propulsion technology, the Magos' voice carried something approaching awe. If we could acquire it, we could traverse this galaxy at will. Cyrene saw the hunger in the Mechanicus priest's eyes. Tech heresy, perhaps, but pragmatism demanded adaptation. Then we need two things: information and resources. We must capture one of their intact vessels. We must interrogate prisoners who can tell us the political landscape. And we must establish a base of operations. The nearest inhabited world is 11 light-years distant, Navigator Septimus reported. His voice was strained. Navigating without the Astronomicon was like sailing blind, using only stellar cartography and mathematical calculations. Scanners indicate a primitive civilization, pre-industrial by technological signatures. Population approximately 5 million. No orbital defenses detected. A soft target, Colonel Commissar Drekken noted. We could take it in a day. And announce our presence to this entire galaxy, Cyrene countered. No, we need a more subtle approach that we observe, we learn, we identify their factions and exploit their conflicts. Brother Librarian Isidore stepped closer to the display. My lord, I must counsel caution. During the battle, I felt something. Not the warp, but another force. A current that flows through this universe, connecting all living things. The Xenos commander, the one with the mask, wielded it like a weapon. Deflected bolter rounds without technology. Threw Brother Sergeant Avidus across a deck with a gesture. Witchcraft, Admiral Karathos spat. Unsanctioned psychers. Perhaps, Isidore conceded. But not warp-touched. This power comes from somewhere else. And if this galaxy has warriors who can wield such abilities, we must account for them in our tactical assessments. Cyrene processed this. The Imperium had faced psychers before. Sanctioned ones trained to serve the Emperor, and unsanctioned ones who were hunted and destroyed. But psychers without the warp? It defied everything he understood about the universe. We proceed carefully, he decided. Send scout frigates to observe that inhabited world. No contact, intelligence gathering only. Meanwhile, we fortify this system. If we are stranded here, we make our stand from a position of strength. And Sergeant Avidus? Isidore asked. He is a prisoner in enemy hands. Cyrene's jaw tightened. Every Astartes was precious. A product of centuries of training and genetic enhancement. Losing Avidus was unacceptable. We will retrieve him, but not yet. First, we learn what kind of galaxy we've fallen into. On Coruscant, in the spire of the Jedi Temple, the Jedi High Council convened an emergency session. Master Yoda sat in his customary chair, eyes closed, feeling the disturbance in the force that had rippled across the galaxy. Master Mace Windu stood before the holographic projections transmitted from the Outer Rim. Images of the brutal ships, the armored giants, the devastation they had unleashed in minutes. "Disturbing this is," Yoda murmured. "A darkness, but not the dark side. Cold, empty, a void where the Force should flow." Mace Windu's expression was grim. "Master Plo Koon reports the prisoner is human, but enhanced far beyond natural capability. Genetically modified, possibly through cloning, but with techniques unknown to us. He claims to serve something called the God Emperor of mankind, and believes all non-humans are to be exterminated." Master Ki Adi-Mundi's concern was immediate. "Genocide as doctrine? This is worse than the Separatists. This is systematic genocide. And they have the power to enforce it," Mace Windu added. "Their ships took concentrated fire from 3 Venators and remained combat capable. Their soldiers are individually superior to our best troopers. And according to Master Plo Koon, their prisoners showed no fear, no doubt, no possibility of negotiation. Complete fanaticism." "Could the Sith be behind this?" Master Shaak Ti suggested. "A new weapon Dooku has unleashed?" Yoda shook his head slowly. "No. Feel the dark side in this, I do not. Something else, something other. From beyond our galaxy, perhaps. Then we face an extragalactic invasion?" Mace Windu's hand unconsciously moved toward his lightsaber. "We're already fighting the Separatists. If this new force joins them..." "Assume nothing, we must," Yoda interrupted. "Send envoys. Attempt communication. If words fail, then prepare for war. But exhaust all peaceful options first." The council murmured agreement, but Mace Windu looked unconvinced. He had felt the emptiness in the Force that surrounded these invaders. They were not enemies who could be reasoned with. They were a crusade made manifest. And crusades did not stop until they had conquered everything in their path or been destroyed utterly. On Sereno, in a castle overlooking storm-racked mountains, Count Dooku received the intelligence reports with great interest. His pale fingers steepled beneath his chin as he reviewed the battle footage. The armored giants, the cathedral ships, the utter ruthlessness of their assault. "Fascinating," he murmured. "A force that attacks the Republic without Separatist involvement. Tell me, General Grievous, what is your assessment?" The cyborg general's mechanical eyes gleamed. "Powerful warriors. Crude tactics but overwhelming firepower. They could be useful. Or a threat to be eliminated." "Or both," Dooku suggested. A plan was already forming in his mind. His master, Darth Sidious, would want to know about this development immediately. But perhaps there was opportunity here. A third party to destabilize the Republic further. To spread chaos while the Sith consolidated power. "Open a channel," Dooku commanded. "I believe it is time we introduced ourselves to our new neighbors and see if their fanaticism can be redirected." The holographic communicator activated, and Dooku's message was encrypted and transmitted on wide-spectrum frequencies toward the last known location of the Imperium fleet. "Greetings, warriors of the Imperium. I am Count Dooku, leader of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. I understand you seek to bring order to this galaxy. Perhaps we share common enemies. Perhaps we should talk." The message vanished into the void, speeding toward Sigma Tertius at the speed of light. And in the darkness between stars, 3 powers, Republic, Separatist, and Imperium, began to circle each other like predators, each calculating advantage, each preparing for the wars to come. The galaxy had been at war for 3 years. Now it would learn what war truly meant, The message from Count Dooku reached the Imperium fleet 6 hours later. Translated by the captured Republic communication protocols, Magos Brenis VII had decrypted from debris. Captain Cyrene stood in the strategium, listening to the smooth, aristocratic voice promising alliance, cooperation, shared goals. "A trap," Colonel Commissar Drekken stated flatly. "Xenos lies to lure us into ambush." "Perhaps," Cyrene acknowledged, "but also an opportunity. This Count Dooku claims to lead a confederacy of independent systems, opposing the force we engaged. If true, this galaxy is divided against itself. We may exploit that division." Brother Librarian Isidore studied the hololithic projection of Dooku's face. Human, aged, but carrying himself with the bearing of nobility. He appears human. If their galaxy contains human factions fighting each other, we must understand why before we choose sides. "There are no sides," Admiral Karathos growled. "There is the Imperium, and there are those who submit to the Imperium. This confederacy may be useful, but they will kneel eventually." Cyrene raised a hand for silence. 3 centuries of command had taught him that ideology without pragmatism led to defeat. The Imperium was mighty, but 8 ships did not conquer galaxies. We respond. Cautiously. We arrange a meeting on neutral ground. We learn what we can, and we assess whether these separatists can be used to our advantage. "And if they prove hostile?" Magos Brenis VII inquired. "Then we demonstrate what the Emperor's wrath looks like." The meeting was arranged for a barren moon orbiting a gas giant in neutral space, territory claimed by neither Republic nor Separatist forces. The litany of fury translated into the system with weapon batteries cold but shields at maximum, flanked by 2 escort frigates. Count Dooku's vessel, a solar sailor of elegant curved design, waited in orbit with a small escort of Separatist frigates. Captain Serene would lead the delegation personally, accompanied by Brother Librarian Isidore, Magos Brenis VII, and a full squad of tactical marines. They descended in a Thunderhawk, the gunship's retro thrusters kicking up lunar dust as it settled on the designated coordinates. The ramp lowered. The Astartes emerged. Count Dooku waited with General Grievous at his side, a towering cyborg whose mechanical body clicked and whirred with each movement. Behind them stood a squad of B-2 super battle droids, their blasters held at attention. Dooku's expression remained neutral as he watched the armored giants descend, but internally he was recalculating. The intelligence reports had not prepared him for their sheer physical presence. "Captain Cyrene," Dooku greeted, inclining his head. "Thank you for accepting my invitation. I am Count Dooku of Sereno. This is General Grievous, Supreme Commander of the droid armies." Cyrene's helmet turned toward Grievous, scanners analyzing the cyborg. Organic components beneath mechanical chassis, a fusion of flesh and machine that the Mechanicus would consider tech heresy of the highest order. But he had seen worse. "Count Dooku, you claim to oppose the forces we engaged. Explain." Dooku gestured toward a prefabricated shelter his droids had erected, a diplomatic pavilion with chairs, a table, and atmospheric processors. "Perhaps we should speak more comfortably. I have much to tell you about this galaxy, and I suspect you have much to tell me about wherever you came from." Cyrene considered refusing. Standing in the open ensured his Marines had clear lines of fire, but intelligence required some risk. He nodded, and the delegation moved to the shelter. The Astartes did not sit. Their armor made it unnecessary, and standing allowed faster reaction times. Dooku sat gracefully, crossing one leg over the other. Let me begin with context. This galaxy is governed, or was, by the Galactic Republic, a democratic confederation of thousands of worlds. However, the Republic has grown corrupt, bureaucratic, inefficient. 10 years ago, a coalition of systems seceded, forming the Confederacy of Independent Systems. For 3 years, we have been at war. Civil war, Cyrene stated. Humans fighting humans. Not merely humans, Dooku corrected. The Republic and Confederacy both contain countless species. Humans, Twi'leks, Wookiees, Keldor, Duros. The galaxy is remarkably diverse. Brother Librarian Isidore stepped forward. And you claim leadership of this confederacy while allowing Xenos to hold positions of power? Dooku sensed the danger in the question. We believe in merit-based governance. Species is irrelevant. Capability is what matters. The temperature in the pavilion seemed to drop 10 degrees. Cyrene's voice came through his helmet's vox grill like a judge pronouncing sentence. You consort with Xenos. You permit them authority over human populations. You have abandoned your species for political convenience. I have liberated systems from an oppressive central authority. Dooku countered smoothly, though he felt the first stirrings of concern. These warriors were not merely militaristic. They were ideologically rigid in ways that made even the Jedi look flexible. Surely you understand the value of independence, of freedom from tyranny. Freedom? Cyrene's laugh was harsh. There is no freedom in the galaxy, Count Dooku. There is only survival, and humanity survives by standing united against the Xenos threat. Your confederacy is a betrayal of your species. You are heretics. General Grievous's mechanical hand moved toward his lightsabers. The B-2 droids raised their blasters. The tactical marines swung their bolters to target acquisition. The pavilion balanced on a knife's edge. Dooku raised his hand, freezing Grievous in place. Let us not be hasty. You are new to this galaxy. You do not understand our history, our culture. Perhaps if you saw what the Republic has become, the corruption, the incompetence, the suffering, you would understand why we fight. Magos Brennus VII spoke for the first time, his augmetic voice crackling. We understand perfectly, Count Dooku. You have allowed Xenos contamination to reach the highest levels of your civilization. The Imperium has stood for 10 millennia precisely because we understand the fundamental truth. Humanity must stand alone, or it will be destroyed. Your confederacy is an abomination. Dooku felt his carefully constructed recruitment pitch crumbling. He had anticipated warriors he could manipulate with promises of power, resources, territory. Instead, he faced fanatics whose worldview made negotiation nearly impossible. Time for a different approach. And the Republic? He asked. You attacked them without provocation. Surely they are equally heretical by your standards. They too integrate alien species into their government. They are, Cyrene confirmed. Both your factions are corrupted beyond redemption. Under normal circumstances, we would cleanse this entire galaxy with fire and remake it in the Emperor's image. But these are not normal circumstances, Brother Librarian Isidore added, his tone more diplomatic than his captain's. We are isolated. 8 ships against a galaxy. We require intelligence, resources, and time to establish our presence. The question is, which of you is the greater threat? Dooku seized the opening. The Republic commands tens of thousands of warships, millions of clone soldiers, and the Jedi Order, warrior mystics who wield powers you cannot imagine. The Confederacy is smaller, more pragmatic, more willing to accommodate new powers. We could offer you territory, resources, technology. In exchange, you help us defeat the Republic. Once victory is achieved, we can discuss the philosophical differences between our peoples. You offer us bribes to overlook your collaboration with the Xenos, Cyrene said flatly. I offer you survival, Dooku corrected. You are powerful. Your ships, your soldiers, your obvious technological sophistication. But you are outnumbered thousands to one. The Republic will not stop until you are destroyed. They will bring their full might against you. Alone, you will fall. With the Confederacy as allies, you have a chance. Captain Cyrene was silent for a long moment. Everything in his training, his indoctrination, his centuries of service screamed at him to reject this Xenos lover and purge him with bolter fire. But he was also a Space Marine captain, trained in strategy as much as warfare. And Dooku was not wrong about their tactical situation. We will consider your offer, Cyrene said finally. But understand this, Count Dooku. We do not serve. We do not kneel. If we choose to act against the Republic, it will be because it serves the Imperium's interests, not yours. And when this war is over, if the Confederacy remains contaminated with Xenos influence, we will cleanse you as thoroughly as we cleanse them. Dooku smiled, though it did not reach his eyes. I would expect nothing less. Take all the time you need to consider, but consider quickly. The Republic is already mobilizing against you. Master Plo Koon's report has reached Coruscant. The Jedi Council debates how to respond. Soon they will send more than one fleet to investigate. They will send armies. Let them come, Cyrene replied. We have faced worse than warrior mystics and clone soldiers. The Emperor protects. The meeting concluded with neither side fully trusting the other, but both recognizing potential utility. As the Thunderhawk lifted off, carrying the Imperium delegation back to orbit, Dooku stood watching with General Grievous at his side. They are dangerous, Grievous observed, his mechanical voice grinding. Fanatical, unpredictable. We should destroy them now while they are weak. No, Dooku countered. We should let them destroy the Republic for us. Their fanaticism makes them perfect weapons. Point them at Coruscant, step back, and watch them burn everything the Jedi hold dear. And when they have exhausted themselves in that crusade, then we eliminate them. Grievous's eyes glowed with anticipation. And if they prove too powerful to eliminate? Dooku's expression darkened. Then I will inform my master, and Lord Sidious will decide their fate. But one way or another, they will serve the Sith's purposes. On Coruscant, in the Senate building's labyrinthine corridors, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine received Count Dooku's encrypted report with great interest. The hologram of his apprentice bowed before him. Master, the Imperium is everything the report suggested. Powerful, fanatical, and absolutely committed to human supremacy. They view all alien species as vermin to be exterminated. Palpatine's yellow eyes gleamed. Fascinating. And their response to your offer? Cautious interest. They despise us for our alien allies, but they are pragmatic enough to recognize they need time to establish themselves. I believe they can be guided toward the Republic while we remain in the shadows. Excellent. Palpatine steepled his fingers. Let the Jedi waste their strength against these newcomers. Let the Republic mobilize its fleets to fight a war on two fronts. And when both sides have bled themselves dry, we will emerge to claim what remains. Continue your cultivation of the Imperium, but carefully. They must believe they act of their own accord. And if they prove uncontrollable? Palpatine's smile was cold. Then they will learn what true power looks like. The Force has dominated this galaxy for millennia. These Imperium warriors, for all their might, have no answer to a Sith Lord's abilities. If they become a threat, I will personally demonstrate why the Force is the ultimate power in the universe. The transmission ended. Palpatine turned to his window, gazing out at the endless cityscape of Coruscant. A new variable had entered his carefully orchestrated plan. But variables could be exploited. The Imperium's arrival might actually accelerate his timetable. Soon, the Jedi would fall. The Republic would become the Empire. And this galaxy would know order under his rule. Whether the Imperium knelt or burned was entirely up to them. In the Litany of Fury's chapel, Captain Cyrene knelt before the icon of the God Emperor, his helmet removed, his scarred face illuminated by candlelight. He had fought for 300 years without doubt. But now, for the first time since his transformation into an Astartes, he felt the weight of uncertainty. They were alone. 8 ships, 15,000 souls. No Imperium, no reinforcements, no Astronomicon to guide them home. "Emperor," he whispered, "give me wisdom. Show me the path. We are surrounded by heresy and Xenos filth, but we are too few to cleanse them all. What would you have us do?" The icon did not answer. It never did. But Cyrene had not expected it to. Faith was not about hearing the Emperor's voice. It was about trusting that the Emperor guided all things toward his ultimate purpose. They would survive. They would adapt. They would carve out a domain in this galaxy and plant the Aquila banner on every world they could reach. And if that meant temporarily tolerating the existence of Xenos, if that meant making deals with heretics like Dooku, then so be it. The Emperor would understand. The Emperor always understood pragmatism in service of ultimate victory. Captain Cyrene rose, replaced his helmet, and strode from the chapel. Orders needed to be given. Plans needed to be made. The Imperium of Man had arrived in this galaxy, and the galaxy would bend or it would break. The Republic's response came swiftly. Within 72 hours of Master Plo Koon's initial report, the Jedi Council dispatched a task force to the Outer Rim. 3 Venator-class Star Destroyers, 12 support frigates, and 2 Jedi Masters leading 10 Jedi Knights. Their mission was threefold: locate the Imperium fleet, assess the threat level, and if possible, establish diplomatic contact. Master Obi-Wan Kenobi commanded the task force from the bridge of the Negotiator. Beside him stood Anakin Skywalker, his former Padawan and now a full Jedi Knight, his mechanical hand resting on his lightsaber hilt. The young man radiated impatience through the Force. 3 days of searching and nothing. Anakin muttered. Maybe they left the sector entirely. Unlikely, Obi-Wan replied, stroking his beard. Master Plo Koon captured one of their soldiers. They won't abandon him. They're here, hiding, watching, waiting to understand us before they make their next move. Then we're flying blind into an ambush. Which is why we proceed carefully. Obi-Wan turned to Commander Cody, his clone commander. All ships maintain formation, scanners at maximum range. I want to see them before they see us. But in the cold mathematics of void warfare, it was already too late. 15 light minutes away, concealed in the shadow of a frozen planetoid, the Imperium fleet watched through advanced auger arrays. The Mechanicus tech priests had been analyzing Republic technology for 3 days, adapting Imperial sensors to detect their energy signatures. Now, 3 massive contacts appeared on their displays, accompanied by a dozen smaller vessels. Contact bearing 347 by 092, the augur officer reported. Republic warships, 3 capital class, 12 escorts. They are scanning this sector methodically. Captain Cyrene studied the hololithic display. The Republic fleet was spread out, maximizing sensor coverage but sacrificing mutual support. a tactical error born of confidence. They did not expect the Imperium to have the capability to detect them first. "They hunt us," Admiral Karathos observed, "like we are prey. Then we remind them who the predators are," Cyrene replied. "But carefully. We need intelligence more than we need kills. Brother Librarian Isidore, analysis?" Isidore stepped forward, though his psychic abilities remained frustratingly silent in this warpless universe. "The lead vessel is broadcasting what appears to be diplomatic codes. They may genuinely be attempting communication rather than immediate assault. Or it's a trap," Colonel Commissar Drekken suggested. "Lure us into overconfidence before the killing blow." Cyrene considered their options. The pragmatic part of him, the part shaped by centuries of void warfare, calculated angles of attack, firing solutions, predicted casualty rates. A surprise assault would devastate the Republic formation, but it would also announce their location to every force in this sector and potentially drive both Republic and Separatist forces into alliance against them. "We need one of their ships intact," Magos Brennis 7 interjected. "Their faster-than-light technology remains our highest priority acquisition. With it, we gain strategic mobility that compensates for our limited numbers. And we need prisoners who can tell us the true political landscape of this galaxy," Brother Librarian Isidore added. "Count Dooku's information is valuable, but biased. We need Republic perspectives to balance it." Captain Cyrene made his decision. "Surgical strike. We target the trailing escort frigate, isolated, vulnerable, but valuable. Disable it, board it, take prisoners and technology. Then we withdraw before the main fleet can respond. Prepare boarding torpedoes and Thunderhawk assault wings." "My lord," Admiral Karathos protested, "we could destroy their entire fleet. Why show mercy to Xenos lovers?" "Because, Admiral," Cyrene replied coldly, "we are not here to satisfy our hatred. We are here to survive and establish the Imperium's dominance. That requires intelligence. Launch the attack." The Republic frigate Morning Star cruised at the edge of the formation, its crew monitoring sensor data with professional efficiency. Commander Thorne, a veteran clone officer, watched the displays with the quiet competence that came from 3 years of war. Then, every alarm on the bridge shrieked simultaneously. "Contact!" the sensor officer shouted. "Unknown vessel decloaking at 3,000 kilometers, closing fast." The void shields of the Righteous Scorn shimmered into visibility as the Imperial frigate's engine burn carried it directly toward the Morning Star, like a predator lunging from darkness. Lance batteries fired at point-blank range, concentrated energy beams that punched through the Republic frigate's deflector shields like tissue paper. The first beam carved through the bridge superstructure, the second ripped through the engineering section. The Morning Star tumbled, crippled but not destroyed, precisely as the Imperium had calculated. "All ships respond," Obi-Wan commanded, feeling the disturbance in the Force an instant before the attack. "Protect the Morning Star. Fighters launch." But the Imperium wasn't staying to fight. Boarding torpedoes shot from the Righteous Scorn's launch tubes. Armored projectiles designed to penetrate enemy hulls and deliver assault teams directly into ship interiors. They slammed into the Morning Star's crippled structure, drilling through the outer armor before detonating their breaching charges. Assault Marines poured through the gaps, 20 Astartes in full battle plate, bolters roaring, moving with the practiced efficiency of warriors who had executed 1,000 boarding actions. Clone troopers responded with disciplined fire, their DC-15 blasters punching into ceramite. But the Astartes pressed forward through the barrage, accepting wounds that would kill normal men, returning fire that turned clone troopers into red mist. "This is Morning Star," Commander Thorne shouted into his communicator, his voice strained as explosions rocked the ship. "We are being boarded by hostile forces. Massive armored infantry, weapons unknown. They're cutting through our security teams like..." The transmission cut to static as a bolter round destroyed the communications array. Obi-Wan felt it through the Force, the cold, empty presence of the borders, the dying flickers of clone troopers' life forces winking out one by one. "Anakin, with me. We're taking a gunship to the Morning Star. Commander Cody, bring the fleet about and prepare to engage that Imperial frigate, but do not destroy it. I want them alive." "Yes, sir." Cody saluted, already barking orders. Anakin ignited his lightsaber as he and Obi-Wan sprinted toward the hangar bay. "About time we got some action." "This isn't action, Anakin," Obi-Wan replied grimly. "This is a precision strike. They disabled one ship, sent boarding parties, and they're going to extract prisoners and technology before we can respond. These aren't mindless fanatics. They're tactically brilliant." The LAAT gunship launched from the negotiator's hangar, its pilot pushing the engines to maximum as they crossed the void between ships. Through the viewport, they could see the Morning Star hemorrhaging atmosphere from dozens of breaches, its hull studded with the angular shapes of boarding torpedoes. Inside the frigate, Brother Sergeant Thaddeus led his squad through corridors slick with blood. Clone resistance had been fierce but insufficient. The Astartes were simply too durable, too strong, too experienced. They had secured the engineering section and were extracting data from the ship's computers, while Mechanicus tech priests worked to understand the propulsion systems. "Time?" Thaddeus voxed to his tech priest liaison. 3 minutes until Republic reinforcements arrive," the augmetic voice crackled back. "We need 2 more to secure the hyperspace motivator assembly. Then you have 90 seconds. After that, we extract whether you're finished or not." "Compliance." Thaddeus turned to his squad. "Defensive positions. Republic reinforcements inbound. Hold them for 90 seconds, then we fall back to the..." He sensed it a fraction of a second before it happened. Combat instincts honed over 2 centuries screaming danger. He threw himself sideways as a blue lightsaber blade carved through the bulkhead behind him, molten metal spraying. The wall exploded inward, and 2 figures in robes burst through, glowing blades humming with lethal energy. "Witchcraft," Thaddeus snarled, raising his bolt pistol. Obi-Wan Kenobi moved with the Force flowing through him, his lightsaber deflecting the bolt round that would have taken his head. The explosive shell detonated against a bulkhead, and he was already moving, closing the distance with supernatural speed. His blade swept toward Thaddeus's neck. The Astartes was faster than any opponent Obi-Wan had faced. Thaddeus ducked, the lightsaber scoring across his power armor's shoulder plate, and drove a ceramite gauntleted fist into Obi-Wan's ribs. The Jedi Master flew backward, impacting a bulkhead hard enough to dent the metal, stars exploding across his vision. Anakin roared in fury, his own lightsaber a blue blur as he engaged 3 Astartes simultaneously. His style was aggressive, powerful, each strike fueled by barely controlled emotion. One Astartes fell, his bolter cut in half, a lightsaber wound searing across his chest. But the other 2 adapted. They stopped trying to shoot him and instead coordinated their movements, forcing Anakin into defensive positions. "These are not droids," Anakin shouted, narrowly avoiding a combat knife that would have found the gap in his armor at the kidney. "They fight like warriors with centuries of experience," Obi-Wan finished, pulling himself upright through sheer force of will. His ribs were cracked, possibly broken. He reached out through the Force, grabbing debris and hurling it at the Astartes in a kinetic barrage. Brother Sergeant Thaddeus watched chunks of metal bounce off his armor with negligible effect. Is that the best your witchcraft can offer? Not even close, Obi-Wan replied, and reached deeper into the Force than he had in years. The corridor's atmosphere itself seemed to compress, an invisible hand squeezing the Astartes from all sides. Thaddeus felt his armor's joints stress under impossible pressure, felt his enhanced physiology struggling against a force that defied physics. He dropped to one knee, power armor servos whining in protest, but he did not break. 2 centuries of combat, genetic enhancement, and sheer bloody-minded stubbornness kept him conscious and fighting. Brothers, retreat, protocol, Omega. The Astartes disengaged with practiced precision, laying down suppressive fire as they withdrew toward the breaching points. Obi-Wan released his Force grip, gasping from the exertion, and Anakin moved to pursue. "No," Obi-Wan commanded, grabbing his former Padawan's arm. "Let them go. We've stopped their assault. We've saved what's left of the crew. That's enough. But we can capture them, question them. And how many more clones die while we try?" Obi-Wan's expression was pained. "Look around, Anakin. Look at what they did in minutes." The corridor was a slaughterhouse. Clone troopers lay in pieces, their armor shredded by explosive rounds. The Astartes had carved through 50 soldiers to reach this position, and while 2 of their own lay dead or dying, the exchange ratio was horrific. Through the breached hull, they watched the Thunderhawks extract the boarding parties, the gunships accelerating away as the righteous scorn engaged its engines. The Imperial frigate turned ponderous, void shields flaring as Republic turbolasers hammered against them, and then it simply left, burned hard for the system's edge, maintaining a fighting retreat that prevented the Republic fleet from closing to optimal firing range. By the time Obi-Wan and Anakin returned to the negotiator, the Imperium fleet was gone, vanished into the dark between stars. Commander Cody's report was grim. 16 clones dead in the boarding action, another 30 wounded. The Morning Star is combat ineffective. Hyperspace motivator is gone. They cut it out and took it with them. They also extracted data from our navigation computers and communication arrays. They have our hyperspace routes now, Anakin realized. They know where our bases are, our supply lines, everything. Obi-Wan nodded slowly, his ribs aching where Thaddeus had struck him. He had fought Separatist droids, dark Jedi bounty hunters, and Sith apprentices. None of them had hit him that hard. And they learned what they needed while minimizing their own exposure. This wasn't a battle, it was an intelligence operation. They're learning about us, adapting to us. Then what do? "We report to the Council," Obi-Wan replied, "and we warn them. The Imperium isn't just another Separatist faction. They're something far more dangerous. They're a military force that's been fighting for 10,000 years, and they've only just begun to show us what they're capable of." In the council chambers on Coruscant, Master Yoda listened to Obi-Wan's report with growing unease. The footage of the boarding action played on holographic displays, armored giants moving with terrifying efficiency, shrugging off wounds that would kill normal soldiers, demonstrating combat skills that rivaled even Jedi Knights. "A grave threat, this Imperium is," Yoda murmured. "But understand them, we do not. Speak with their prisoner again, we must. Learn what drives such fanaticism." "I'll go," Mace Windu volunteered. "Master Plo Koon has established initial contact. Perhaps a different approach will yield better results." But across the galaxy, in the hidden strategium of the Litany of Fury, Captain Cyrene reviewed the intelligence gathered from the Morning Star with satisfaction. Hyperspace routes, fleet dispositions, political structures, supply lines, communications protocols. The pieces were falling into place. "Magos," he addressed Brennus Savim. "How long until we can reverse engineer their hyperspace technology?" 6 months, possibly less. The principles are elegant, but require calibration to our ship's systems. However, once complete, we will possess strategic mobility superior to anything we had in the Imperium. Excellent. Continue your work. Cyrene turned to Admiral Karathos. The Republic knows we can strike and withdraw at will. They will commit more forces to hunting us. Let them. Every ship they send into the Outer Rim is a ship not fighting the Separatists. We bleed them through uncertainty and fear. And when they find us, then we show them what happens when the Imperium goes to war in earnest. Master Mace Windu stood before the containment cell in the Resolute's brig, studying Brother Sergeant Avitus through the transparasteel. The Space Marine had been imprisoned for 8 days, had refused food and water for 6, and showed no signs of physical distress. Medical scans revealed physiology that defied understanding: redundant organs, enhanced bone density, modified cardiovascular systems. The prisoner was as much weapon as man. "Your people attacked one of our frigates 3 days ago," Mace Windu began, his voice calm but carrying the authority of the Jedi Council. "Killed 16 soldiers, wounded 30 more, stole technology and intelligence. Why?" Avitus looked at him with eyes that had seen centuries of war. "Why does the hawk hunt the rabbit? Because it is in its nature. We are the Imperium. You are in our way." The answer is self-evident. We offered peace, communication. Your admiral chose violence. "Because your peace is a lie," Avitus replied. "You consort with Xenos. You permit aliens to hold power over human worlds. You have betrayed your own species for political convenience. There can be no peace with traitors." Mace Windu felt the cold emptiness radiating from the prisoner. Not hatred, which could be reasoned with, but something far more absolute. This was doctrine carved into genetic code and reinforced through centuries of conditioning. In our galaxy, thousands of species coexist. We've built a civilization that spans millions of worlds. Unity in diversity. "Unity in weakness," Avitus countered. "Tell me, Jedi, when the next crisis comes, when resources grow scarce, when survival demands sacrifice, will your Xenos allies stand with humanity? Or will they turn on you the moment it serves their interests?" We learned this lesson 10,000 years ago. Humanity stands alone, or humanity falls. "You speak of 10,000 years," Mace Windu observed. "Your people claim to serve a god emperor who has ruled for that entire span. Yet no human lives that long. What is the truth?" For the first time, something flickered in Avitus's expression. Not doubt, but something approaching religious fervor. "The Emperor is more than human. He is humanity's pinnacle, its protector, its guiding light. He sits upon the golden throne on Terra, maintaining the astronomicon that guides our ships through the warp. Every day, 1,000 psychers sacrifice their souls to sustain him. Every world we conquer in his name. He is God, and we are his angels of death." Mace Windu felt a chill. The conviction in those words was absolute. This was not mere loyalty, but worship raised to the level of ultimate truth. "And if we could prove your emperor is not divine, that he's simply a powerful man, perhaps kept alive through technology, then you would be lying," Avitus said simply. "I have felt his presence through the warp. I have seen his will made manifest in battle. Your witchcraft, this force you manipulate, is a pale shadow compared to his glory. The force isn't witchcraft. It's the energy that flows through all living things, binding the galaxy together. It's natural, universal. It is heresy, Avitus interrupted. Unsanctioned psychic powers wielded without the Emperor's blessing. In the Imperium, such individuals are hunted down and either sanctioned through rigorous training or executed. You allow them to roam free, untrained, uncontrolled. You invite demonic corruption. Mace Windu's hand moved unconsciously to his lightsaber. We train Force sensitives from childhood. The Jedi Order has maintained peace for 1,000 generations. 1,000 generations, Avitus repeated, and for the first time, he almost smiled. We have waged war for 10,000 years. Your peace is an eye blink, a brief moment of calm before the inevitable storm. And when that storm comes, your Jedi will be swept away like all the other failed civilizations that thought they could defy the fundamental laws of survival. The Jedi Master studied the prisoner for a long moment. This was not an enemy who could be redeemed. Not one who could be negotiated with. This was absolute ideological opposition made flesh. What will it take for your people to leave this galaxy in peace? Submission, Avitus replied without hesitation. Every human world brought into the Imperium, every Xenos expelled or exterminated, every heretical belief purged, every trace of your corruption cleansed with fire. Then, and only then, will there be peace, the peace of unity under the Emperor's rule. Genocide. You're describing genocide on a galactic scale. I'm describing survival. You call it genocide. We call it the Great Crusade. The difference is merely perspective. Mace Windu turned away from the cell, his expression grim. Master Plo Koon had been right. These people could not be reasoned with. They were a civilization built on perpetual war. Xenophobia raised to religious doctrine, and a fanaticism that made even Sith cultists look moderate. The Republic faced an enemy that would accept nothing less than total victory or total annihilation. One more question, Mace Windu said, pausing at the door. Your people are stranded here, cut off from your Imperium. Why not simply leave? Find a way home? Avitus met his gaze. Because wherever we stand, there stands the Imperium. We will carve out a domain in this galaxy. We will plant the Aquila banner on every world we can reach. And if we can never return home, then we will ensure that humanity in this galaxy inherits the Emperor's legacy. We are Space Marines, Jedi. We know no fear. We know no retreat. We know only war. Mace Windu left the brig with those words echoing in his mind. He needed to report to the Council immediately. The Imperium wasn't just a military threat. They were an ideological cancer that would spread if left unchecked. But while the Jedi debated, events were already accelerating beyond their control. In the Hidden Valley Fortress on Sereno, Count Dooku received a transmission that changed everything. Darth Sidious's hologram materialized in his sanctum, the Sith Lord's yellow eyes gleaming with anticipation. My apprentice, the time has come to test our new associates. The Republic is gathering a fleet to hunt the Imperium in the Outer Rim. 3 full battle groups, 27 capital ships, supported by Jedi strike teams. They intend to corner and destroy the Imperium before it can establish a foothold. Dooku understood immediately. You want me to warn the Imperium? Give them time to prepare an ambush. More than that, Sidious replied. I want you to offer them Separatist support. A joint operation. Our droid fleets coordinate with their warships to crush the Republic force. Let the Jedi face an enemy they cannot understand, while our droids overwhelm them with numbers. The propaganda value alone will be immense. The Republic defeated by unknown invaders and separatist forces working in concert. And if the Imperium refuses, their xenophobia, then they die and we lose nothing. But I suspect they are pragmatic enough to accept allies when survival demands it. Test them, apprentice. See if their fanaticism can be bent to serve our purposes. The hologram vanished. Dooku immediately composed his message to the Imperium, using the encrypted channels they had established. The message was simple. The Republic sends 3 battle groups to destroy you. 27 capital ships, 40 Jedi. They will arrive in your sector in 72 hours. I offer you intelligence, coordinates, and droid fleet support. Together, we can turn their trap into their grave. Respond within 12 hours. Time is short. In the Strategium of the Litany of Fury, Captain Cyrene read Dooku's message 3 times, analyzing every word for deception. Admiral Karathos stood at his shoulder, his scarred face unreadable. "It's a trap," the Admiral said flatly. "Possibly," Cyrene agreed. "But the intelligence matches what we extracted from the Morning Star's databases. The Republic is mobilizing against us. Whether Dooku is sincere or lying, we face a fleet action within days." Brother Librarian Isidore stepped forward. 3 battle groups is a significant commitment. They're not hunting us, they're moving to annihilate us. If we face that force alone, our odds of survival are poor. "Then we don't face them alone," Magos Brenna 7 interjected. "We use the Separatist droids as ablative armor. Let them absorb the first wave of fire while we position for optimal firing solutions. If Dooku betrays us, we destroy his droid fleet and retreat. If he's sincere, we gain a significant force multiplier." Colonel Commissar Drekkin's augmetic eye whirred as he calculated casualty projections. "The men won't like it. Fighting alongside Xenos and their mechanical abominations goes against everything we believe." "The men will do their duty," Cyrene replied coldly. "As will we all. This isn't about what we like, Commissar. This is about survival. We are 8 ships against a galaxy. We use every advantage available, or we die as martyrs no one will remember." "And when the battle is over?" Isidore asked quietly. "When we've fought alongside the Separatists, bled alongside them, will we still purge them as planned?" Cyrene's expression was stone. "Without hesitation. We use them. We exploit their resources. And when they are no longer useful, we cleanse them as thoroughly as we'll cleanse the Republic. The Emperor will understand. He always understood pragmatism in service of ultimate victory." The room fell silent. Every officer present knew what they were contemplating: alliance with the very Xenos they were sworn to exterminate. It violated every tenet of Imperial doctrine, every principle of the Great Crusade. But it was also the only path to survival. "Send our response to Dooku," Cyrene ordered. "We accept his offer. Provide him with our current coordinates and fleet disposition. Tell him we will coordinate our attack, but we command our own forces. We do not take orders from Xenos lovers." "And if this damns us in the Emperor's eyes?" Brother Librarian Isidore asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Then we were damned the moment the warp spat us into this forsaken galaxy," Cyrene replied. "But I would rather face the Emperor's judgment as survivors who compromised than as martyrs who died for principles that no one in this universe understands or values. Send the message." On Coruscant, Jedi Master Yoda meditated in his chambers, reaching out through the Force to perceive the future. The vision came in fragments. Fleets burning in the void. Lightsabers clashing against impossible darkness, a galaxy torn between 3 powers that could not coexist. And at the center of it all, a cold, empty presence that rejected the Force itself. He opened his eyes, ancient and weary. Begun this war has, and darker it will become before the light returns. In the Senate building, Chancellor Palpatine stood at his window, watching the endless streams of air traffic flow through Coruscant's sky lanes. Everything was proceeding as he had foreseen. The Jedi would commit their forces to the Outer Rim, the Separatists would bleed the Republic, and the Imperium would serve as the perfect chaos agent, unpredictable, powerful, absolutely committed to their cause. Soon, the conditions would be perfect for Order 66. Soon, the Jedi would fall. Soon, the galaxy would be his. And if the Imperium survived to threaten his empire, well, he had not become the most powerful Sith Lord in a millennium by underestimating potential rivals. He would deal with them when the time came. In the cold void between stars, three powers prepared for collision. The Republic, defending a 1,000-year peace and a civilization built on diversity. The Separatists, seeking independence through droid armies and corporate ruthlessness. And the Imperium, carrying 10 millennia of human supremacy and religious fanaticism into a galaxy unprepared for their fury. None of them understood yet that this was merely the opening movement of a symphony of destruction that would reshape the galaxy forever. But they would learn. In the Outer Rim, in a debris field that had once been a thriving asteroid mining colony, the trap was being set. Republic battle groups converged from three directions, their hyperspace routes calculated to arrive simultaneously and catch the Imperium fleet in a perfect encirclement. Jedi Masters prepared their strike teams. Clone commanders briefed their soldiers on fighting armored giants. Admiral Yularen, commanding the operation from the Resolute, reviewed tactical projections that showed a 92% chance of victory. No one had accounted for the Separatist droid fleet hiding in the system's Oort cloud. No one had anticipated that the Imperium would accept Xenos allies. No one had considered what would happen when three naval doctrines, Republic precision, Separatist numbers, and Imperial brutality, collided in a single battle space. The Republic was about to receive a harsh education in the realities of war against an enemy that had been perfecting its craft for 10,000 years. And the Jedi were about to learn that the Force was not the only power in the universe that could shape destinies and break civilizations. The Republic fleet dropped out of hyperspace exactly on schedule, emerging into the debris field designated Target Zone Epsilon with textbook precision. Admiral Yularen stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching his battle groups materialize in perfect formation. 9 Venator-class Star Destroyers forming the core, supported by 18 escort frigates and corvettes. 40,000 clone troopers, 16 Jedi Knights, 3 Jedi Masters. It should have been overwhelming force. All ships report ready status. Commander Cody reported. Sensors scanning for Imperial signatures. Nothing yet, sir. Master Mace Windu stood beside the Admiral, arms crossed, feeling the currents of the Force swirl with warning. Something was wrong. The approach had been too easy, the sector too quiet. Maintain alert status. This feels... The trap sprung with devastating precision. The Imperium fleet emerged not from hyperspace, but from the shadow of a massive asteroid, their auger arrays having detected the Republic's approach 30 minutes earlier. They had been waiting, positioned, weapons charged. The undying conviction opened fire first, her lance batteries spearing across the void at light speed, targeting the Republic's trailing battle group. One Venator exploded instantly as a lance beam carved through her engineering section, breaching the reactor. The ship tore itself apart in a miniature sun. 2 more Venators staggered as macro cannon shells hammered their shields, the kinetic impacts overwhelming their deflector arrays. "All ships, evasive action," Admiral Yularen commanded, his calm shattering into urgency. "Return fire. Get me firing solutions on those." Then the droid fleet arrived. 600 Separatist warships dropped out of hyperspace on the Republic's flank. Munificent-class frigates, recusant-class destroyers, and at their center, 4 Providence-class dreadnoughts. The droid fleet opened fire immediately, turbo lasers and ion cannons creating a wall of energy that hammered into the Republic formation from the opposite direction. The Republic fleet was caught in a crossfire between Imperial brutality and Separatist numbers. "Separatists!" Commander Cody shouted. "They're coordinating with the Imperium forces. This was a setup." Mace Windu ignited his purple lightsaber, though he was kilometers from any enemy, the gesture instinctive. Through the Force, he felt the shock and rage of the other Jedi throughout the fleet. Felt clone troopers dying as ships buckled under sustained fire. Felt the cold calculation of the Imperium warriors and the mechanical precision of droid targeting computers. "Launch all fighters," Admiral Yularen commanded. "Battle meditation protocol, all Jedi coordinate fleet movements through the Force. We need to break this encirclement or we're dead." RC-170 starfighters and V-wings poured from the Venator hangar bays. 3,000 Republic fighters swarming into the void. They met the Separatist droid fighters head-on. Vulture droids and tri-fighters programmed for perfect coordination, utterly fearless. The void became a furball of dogfights, laser cannons and missiles turning space into a light show of death. On the bridge of the Litany of Fury, Captain Cyrene watched the battle unfold with cold satisfaction. "The Republic fleet is breaking formation. They're trying to concentrate fire on our position. Separatist droids are holding their flank. Excellent." "My lord," Admiral Karathos reported, "their starfighters are targeting our weapon batteries. They're faster than our estimates suggested. Point defense batteries are engaging, but they're suffering losses." "Then we adapt?" Cyrene turned to his communications officer. "Order all Thunderhawks to launch. Target the Republic fighters. Our pilots are superior. Prove it." 20 Thunderhawk gunships roared from the strike cruiser's launch bays, their heavy armor and assault cannons making them flying fortresses compared to the agile Republic fighters. They couldn't match the nimbleness of ARC-170s, but they didn't need to. Each Thunderhawk could take punishment that would vaporize a standard fighter, and their assault cannons fired shells the size of a man's fist. Brother Pilot Castor guided his Thunderhawk through a swarm of V-wings, his transhuman reflexes processing targeting data at superhuman speed. His assault cannons spoke, heavy shells tearing through 2 V-wings in a single burst. A third fighter tried to strafe his ship. The laser cannon scored his armor but failed to penetrate. Castor rolled his gunship and returned fire, reducing the V-wing to expanding debris. But the Republic pilots were skilled, Jedi-trained, working with coordination that impressed even the Astartes. They swarmed the Thunderhawks, dozens of fighters concentrating fire on single targets, exploiting every moment when point defense batteries were reloading. One Thunderhawk took critical damage, its starboard engine exploding. Brother Pilot Theron managed to crash land his crippled gunship into a Separatist frigate. Not by accident, but by deliberate calculation, his sacrifice taking the enemy vessel with him. "For the Emperor!" His final Vox transmission screamed across all channels, and then he was gone. Aboard the Venator Endurance, Jedi Master Kit Fisto stood in the meditation chamber with 5 other Jedi Knights, their minds linked through battle meditation, guiding clone pilots through the Force. Their combined consciousness touched each pilot, enhanced reflexes, warned of dangers microseconds before they materialized, coordinated maneuvers that should have been impossible. It was working. The Republic fighters were winning their engagements, pushing back both Separatist droids and Imperial gunships. But Kit Fisto could feel the strain. Battle meditation required immense concentration, and the cold, empty presence of the Imperium forces was like a void in the Force that resisted their influence. "Something's wrong," Jedi Knight Nadar Veb gasped, sweat beading on his Mon Calamari features. "I can't sense the Imperial pilots. It's like they don't exist in the Force." "They exist," Kit Fisto replied, his voice strained. "But they're muted. Their conviction is so absolute, their indoctrination so complete. They're almost like droids. But worse, because they're still human underneath. Focus. We can't help our pilots if we're distracted." But the Imperium had anticipated Jedi battle meditation. The litany of fury adjusted course, her prow turning toward the Endurance with ponderous inevitability. Captain Cyrene had identified the ship broadcasting unusual energy signatures, patterns consistent with the psychic resonance Brother Librarian Isidore had detected during previous engagements. The Jedi were coordinating from that ship. "All batteries," Cyrene commanded. "Target the Endurance. Boarding action protocol. We take that ship and kill their witches." The strike cruiser accelerated, her void shields flaring as Republic turbo lasers hammered against them. The Endurance tried to maneuver, but she was caught between the Imperium ship and a Separatist dreadnought, her options limited. Lance batteries fired, one beam carving through her hangar bay, vaporizing hundreds of clone troopers in an instant. "We're being targeted," Commander Pond shouted. "That Imperium cruiser is on a ramming course. No, wait, they're launching boarding craft." 30 boarding torpedoes shot from the litany of fury, armored projectiles that crossed the void in seconds. Point defense fire destroyed 7. 23 slammed into the Endurance's hull, drilling through armor plating before detonating their breaching charges. And the Astartes came. 150 Space Marines poured into the Endurance, 2 full companies of Blood Ravens, each warrior a transhuman killing machine. They moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency, bolters roaring, power swords crackling with energy fields, mowing down clone troopers who fought with desperate courage but insufficient firepower. Kit Fisto felt it through the Force, the cold tide of death washing through his ship. "All Jedi defensive positions. Protect the clones. Commander Pons, seal bulkheads Delta through Gamma. Channel them into kill zones." "Yes, sir." Pons was already shouting orders, deploying heavy weapons teams with rotary cannons and rocket launchers, setting up overlapping fields of fire. The Astartes hit the first kill zone and simply walked through it. Rotary cannon fire sparked off ceramite armor. Rocket launchers scored direct hits, staggering the giants, but not killing them. And all the while, they returned fire. Bolter rounds turned clones into red mist, each explosive shell a miniature grenade that detonated inside flesh. Then Kit Fisto arrived, his green blade humming as he dropped into the corridor ahead of the Astartes' advance. "I am Jedi Master Kit Fisto. In the name of the Galactic Republic, I order you to stand down and surrender." Brother Captain Angelus, leading the assault personally, looked at the Jedi with eyes that had witnessed 3 centuries of war. "I am Captain Gabriel Angelos of the Blood Ravens chapter. In the name of the God Emperor of mankind, I order you to kneel or die." Kit Fisto's response was to surge forward, his lightsaber a green blur. The Force flowed through him, enhancing speed and strength, guiding each strike with precognitive accuracy. His blade swept toward Angelos's neck. The captain's power sword met it, the energized blade clashing against plasma with a sound like thunder. Angelus moved with transhuman speed, his centuries of combat experience reading Kit Fisto's style in seconds. The Jedi was fast, graceful, precise. But Angelos had fought everything from orc war bosses to chaos champions. He knew how to fight opponents faster than himself. He feinted high, drawing Kit Fisto's lightsaber into a defensive position, then drove his ceramite-booted foot into the Jedi's chest. Kit Fisto flew backward, impacting the bulkhead, ribs cracking from the impact. Before he could recover, 3 more Astartes were on him, bolters aimed at his head. "Hold," Angelos commanded. "This one is valuable. Capture him alive. The librarians will want to study his witchcraft." Kit Fisto called upon the Force, creating a kinetic wave that threw the Astartes backward. He rolled to his feet, gasping through broken ribs, his lightsaber sweeping in defensive patterns. Around him, more Jedi arrived: Nahdar Veb, Ayla Secura, and 3 Jedi Knights, their blades forming a wall of plasma between the clones and the Astartes' advance. "Together," Kit Fisto commanded. "Coordinated strikes. They're strong but not invincible." The Jedi attacked as one, their movements synchronized through the Force, each covering the other's weaknesses. Lightsabers carved through power armor, finding joints and seals. One Astartes fell, his arm severed at the elbow. Another staggered as Ayla Secura's blade punched through his breastplate, burning into the progenoid gland beneath. But the Astartes adapted. They stopped fighting individually and formed firing lines, overlapping fields of bolter fire that forced the Jedi into constant defensive movements. And when the Jedi closed to melee range, the Astartes met them with power weapons and combat knives. Their superior strength and durability making each exchange brutal. Nahdar Veb screamed as a power sword carved through his shoulder, the energized blade cutting through flesh and bone. He fell, clutching the wound, and 3 clone troopers dragged him back while laying down covering fire. Ayla Secura took a glancing bolter round to her leg, the explosive shell detonating against her armor but still tearing muscle. She stumbled, barely blocking the follow-up strike from an Astartes power fist that would have pulped her skull. Kit Fisto realized they were losing. The Astartes were simply too durable, too experienced, too numerous. The Jedi were winning individual duels, but being overwhelmed by tactical superiority. "Fall back. Fighting retreat to the meditation chamber. We hold there or die." The Jedi withdrew, their lightsabers a defensive screen as they retreated through corridors slick with blood. Behind them, the Astartes advanced methodically, not rushing, simply maintaining pressure. They had time. The ship was crippled. There was nowhere for the Jedi to run. In space, the battle had reached its critical phase. The Republic fleet had lost 4 Venators and 11 escort vessels. The Separatist droid fleet had been reduced by 200 ships. The droids fought with perfect coordination, but lacked the durability to withstand concentrated Republic fire. The Imperium fleet was largely intact, their void shields and heavy armor allowing them to shrug off damage that would have destroyed equivalent Republic ships. But Admiral Yularen was a veteran of 3 years of brutal warfare. He saw the pattern. The Imperium was the anvil, the Separatists the hammer. Break the anvil, and the hammer became manageable. All remaining Venators, concentrate fire on the Imperium flagship, he commanded. Everything we have. I want that ship crippled or destroyed, now. 5 Venator-class Star Destroyers turned as one, their turbo-laser batteries firing in perfect synchronization. The combined firepower of 3,000 heavy turbo-lasers hammered into the Undying Conviction's void shields. The shields held, then flickered, then failed under the sustained barrage. Turbo-laser fire began chewing into the Lunar-class cruiser's armored hull, each hit burning through meters of adamantium plating. Secondary explosions rippled along her superstructure. Her lance batteries fell silent as power conduits were severed. Her macro cannons stopped firing as their crews were vaporized by turbolaser penetrations. Admiral Carethos stood on the bridge as alarms screamed and the deck bucked beneath his feet. "All hands, abandon ship. Evacuate to escort vessels. Engines here. Give me emergency power to the engines. We're ramming that flagship." "My lord, the Emperor—" "The Emperor protects," Carethos interrupted coldly. "And we protect the Imperium. Ramming speed." The undying conviction, her hull breaking apart, her superstructure aflame, her crew dying by the hundreds, turned one final time toward the Resolute. Her remaining engines fired at maximum burn, accelerating the crippled ship toward Admiral Ulleran's flagship. "Evasive action," Mace Windu shouted. But 8 kilometers of dying warship could not be avoided at this range. The undying conviction slammed into the Resolute at 1,200 kilometers per hour. The impact was apocalyptic. Both ships crumpled, their hulls interpenetrating, their reactors breaching simultaneously. The combined explosion lit up the void like a newborn star, vaporizing both vessels and everything aboard them in a microsecond. Admiral Ulleran, Admiral Carethos, Mace Windu, 3,000 clone troopers, 500 Imperium crew, all gone. The shockwave from the explosion rippled outward, damaging ships on both sides. The battle suddenly paused as both fleets recoiled from the sheer devastation. In the Endurance's meditation chamber, Kit Fisto felt Mace Windu's presence vanish from the Force like a candle extinguished. He gasped, nearly collapsing from the psychic shock. Around him, the other Jedi felt it too. One of the greatest masters of their order, gone in an instant. The momentary distraction was all the Astartes needed. The meditation chamber's doors exploded inward. Captain Angelos led the assault, his power sword carving through the last defensive line of clone troopers. The Jedi turned to fight, but they were exhausted, wounded, emotionally devastated by Mace Windu's death. Aayla Secura fell, stunned by a bolt round that grazed her skull. Kit Fisto fought with desperate fury, his lightsaber cutting down 2 Astartes. But Brother Librarian Isidore stepped forward, his psychic powers, useless in this universe until now, suddenly flickering to life as he drew upon Kit Fisto's own Force presence. The Jedi Master felt his connection to the Force disrupted, twisted, turned against him. He stumbled, and Captain Angelos struck, his power sword hilt slamming into Kit Fisto's temple. The Jedi Master collapsed, unconscious. "Secure them," Angelos commanded. "All Jedi prisoners, suppress their abilities with null field generators. Begin extraction. We have what we came for." The Astartes withdrew, carrying their Jedi prisoners and dozens of captured clone troopers. The Endurance, crippled and burning, was left to drift as the Blood Ravens returned to their strike cruiser. In space, the Separatist fleet was withdrawing, their mission accomplished. Count Dooku's hologram appeared on Captain Serene's command throne. "A magnificent victory, Captain. The Republic has been bloodied, their morale shattered. Perhaps this is the beginning of a beautiful partnership?" Siren stared at the hologram with cold eyes. "You served your purpose, Count. Do not mistake temporary alliance for friendship. When we no longer need you, we will purge you as thoroughly as we purge all Xenos lovers." Dooku's smile never wavered. "Of course, Captain. I would expect nothing less. Until our next engagement." The transmission ended. Captain Sirene surveyed the aftermath. The undying conviction destroyed, 300 Astartes dead. But they had captured 6 Jedi and proven the Imperium could fight and win against overwhelming odds. Status of the Jedi prisoners? secured in null-field cells, Brother Librarian Isidore reported. Their connection to this force is suppressed. They are helpless. Excellent. Begin interrogation immediately. I want to understand their abilities, their organization, their weaknesses. Everything. The Republic fleet limped away from the debris field. Having lost 6 capital ships and 14,000 clones, they had learned a terrible lesson. The Imperium was not another separatist faction. It was something far worse. And it had allies. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant fell into mourning. Master Mace Windu, second only to Yoda in wisdom and power, was gone. 6 more Jedi were missing, presumed captured. The holographic casualty reports scrolled endlessly through the council chambers. 14,000 clone troopers dead, 6 Venators destroyed, dozens of smaller vessels lost or crippled. Master Yoda sat in his chair, eyes closed, feeling the disturbance in the Force ripple across the galaxy. The darkness he had sensed was growing, spreading, but it was not the familiar malevolence of the Sith. It was emptiness, a void that consumed light without replacing it with darkness. Simply nothing. Master Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi said quietly, standing before the diminished council. Only 8 masters remained now. Their numbers depleted by 3 years of war, and now this catastrophic defeat. The Senate is demanding answers. They want to know how the Imperium and Separatists coordinated such an effective ambush. They're calling for immediate retaliation. Retaliation? Master Plo Koon's voice was heavy with grief. He had lost colleagues, students, friends in that battle. Against which enemy? The Separatists or the Imperium? We're already fighting a war on one front. Now we face 2. 3, Obi-Wan corrected grimly. We cannot forget the Sith. Count Dooku orchestrates both conflicts. This alliance with the Imperium serves his purposes. Divide our forces, demoralize our troops, create chaos that serves the dark side. Yoda opened his eyes. Spoken to the Imperium prisoner again, have you? Yes, Master. Brother Sergeant Avitus remains uncooperative. He views his capture as an opportunity for martyrdom. He's been refusing sustenance for 11 days now and shows no signs of physical deterioration. Whatever modifications his people have undergone, they're beyond anything we've encountered. And our captured Jedi? Master Shakti asked, her voice tight with concern. Master Kit Fisto, Knight Isla Secura. What fate awaits them in Imperium hands? Obi-Wan's expression darkened. According to Avitus, the Imperium has specialists called librarians, psychers who study enemy abilities. They'll interrogate our people, study their connection to the Force, attempt to understand and potentially weaponize what they learn. And when they've extracted all useful information, he didn't need to finish. Everyone understood. Then we must mount a rescue operation. Ki Adimundi stated, we cannot abandon our own. Into the heart of an enemy fleet that just destroyed 6 of our capital ships? Master Plo Koon shook his head. That's not rescue. That's suicide. Then what do you propose? Ki Adimundi's frustration was evident. We sit here while our people are tortured by fanatics? Propose I do, that understand our enemy we must. Yoda said quietly. Rushing to battle without wisdom leads only to more death. The Imperium, powerful they are, yes, but also stranded, isolated, desperate. Find their weakness, we can, but only if patience we have. Obi-Wan nodded slowly. Master Yoda is right. The Imperium presents themselves as unstoppable, but they're far from home, cut off from their empire, operating with limited resources. Every ship they lose, every soldier that falls, They cannot replace them. We need to turn their isolation against them. How? Shakti asked. By forcing them to choose, Obi-Wan replied, his strategic mind already working through possibilities. They've allied with the Separatists out of pragmatism, but their ideology views all non-humans as enemies to be exterminated. That's a fundamental contradiction we can exploit. Drive a wedge between them and Dooku. Force the Imperium to reveal whether their fanaticism or their pragmatism is stronger. And if their pragmatism wins, then we face an Imperium that's learning to compromise, which is marginally better than one that never will. But if their fanaticism wins, they'll turn on the Separatists, and we gain an opportunity to strike while they're fighting each other. Master Yoda considered this. Wisdom there is in your words, but dangerous this path is. The Imperium, predictable they are not. Push them too hard and lash out they may. At us, at innocent worlds. The council chamber fell silent as the weight of that possibility settled over them. The Imperium had demonstrated their willingness to use overwhelming force without hesitation. What would they do if cornered? The answer came faster than anyone anticipated. The planet was called Raxus Secundus, a separatist stronghold in the Outer Rim. A manufacturing world producing battle droids by the billions, its surface covered in droid foundries and shield generators. Count Dooku had offered it to the Imperium as a resupply point, a gesture of good faith after their joint victory. Captain Siren stood in orbit aboard the Litany of Fury, studying the planet through the observation deck. Below, he could see the factories, the automated assembly lines, the endless streams of droids being produced. But he could also see the alien workers, Geonosians, Neimoidians, other Xenos species managing the facilities. They built this world on Xenos labor, Brother Librarian Isidore observed, standing at his captain's shoulder. Dooku expects us to accept supplies manufactured by non-humans. He tests us, Cyrene replied. Tests whether our pragmatism outweighs our principles, whether we'll compromise doctrine for convenience. And will we? Cyrene was silent for a long moment. In his 300 years of service, he had faced this question in various forms dozens of times. Every Space Marine captain did. The balance between ideological purity and tactical necessity. The line between pragmatism and heresy. No, he said finally. We draw the line here. We will not accept supplies touched by Xenos hands. We will not legitimize their existence through trade and cooperation. If we do, we become what we fight against. Then we refuse Dooku's offer? We do more than refuse. Cyrene turned from the viewport, his decision made. We demonstrate what the Imperium does to worlds that consort with Xenos. We show this galaxy what mercy looks like through the Emperor's eyes. Prepare exterminatus protocols. Brother Librarian Isidore felt ice in his veins. My lord, there are 3 billion inhabitants on that world. Not all are Xenos. Millions of humans work in those factories, enslaved by separatist control. Then we free them from their slavery. Cyrene replied coldly. Better to die cleansed than live corrupted. We did not come to this galaxy to compromise. We came to plant the Aquila banner or die trying. If we accept Xenos-built supplies today, what do we accept tomorrow? Where does the compromise end? Captain, the strategic implications... I am aware of the strategic implications. Cyrene interrupted, his voice hard. Dooku will be furious. The Separatists may turn against us. We lose a valuable resupply point. I have weighed all of this, Brother Librarian, and I have concluded that our souls are worth more than tactical advantage. If we are to be stranded in this galaxy, then we will be stranded as true servants of the Emperor, not as compromised shadows of what we should be. Isidore recognized the finality in his captain's voice. As you command, my lord. I will inform Admiral Carathos. He paused. Forgive me. Admiral Carathos fell with the undying conviction. I will inform Acting Admiral Severus. Do so, and have the astropathic choir. Cyrene stopped himself. There was no astropathic choir anymore. No way to contact the Imperium for guidance. No way to know if the Emperor would approve or condemn this decision. They were alone, acting on faith and doctrine, hoping it was enough. Have all ships prepared for planetary bombardment, Cyrene amended. Cyclonic torpedoes, lance strikes, macro cannons, full exterminatus protocol. Raxus Secundus dies today. On the surface, in the primary droid foundry, Foreman Wat Tambor received the transmission from the Imperium fleet with confusion. The Skakoan's vocabulator crackled as he processed the message. Evacuate all human personnel immediately. You have 1 hour. This world is condemned. Condemned? Tambor's mechanical voice echoed through the control center. By what authority? Count Dooku authorized this facility for Imperium resupply. This is an error. The response came in Captain Cyrene's cold, emotionless tone. This is no error. Your facility employs Xenos labor to manufacture materials for human use. This is an abomination. We do not accept supplies touched by alien hands. We do not trade with those who consort with non-humans. Your world has been judged and found wanting. Evacuate your human slaves, or they die with you. You have 59 minutes. The transmission ended. Tambor stared at his communication console in disbelief, then at the orbital display, showing the Imperium ships moving into bombardment positions. They're insane. They're absolutely insane. Contact Count Dooku immediately. Tell him his allies have. The first lance strike hit the planetary shield generator on the northern continent. The shield, designed to withstand turbo-laser bombardment from Republic fleets, held against the energy beam for 3 seconds. Then it overloaded, collapsing in a cascade failure that left the northern hemisphere exposed. Cyclonic torpedoes followed, each one a planet killer, designed to burrow into a world's crust and detonate with enough force to trigger tectonic destabilization. 12 torpedoes struck the northern continent in a coordinated pattern. The explosions were visible from orbit, continent-spanning fireballs that vaporized everything within 2,000 kilometers of each impact point. The shock waves triggered earthquakes. Volcanoes erupted along fault lines. The atmosphere ignited. In the control center, Tambor watched his world die on the monitors, his mechanical mind unable to process the scale of destruction. Stop them! Someone stop them! Activate the droid defense fleet. But the droid defense fleet was designed to fight starfighters and capital ships, not withstand an exterminatus. The Imperium frigates systematically destroyed every orbital platform, every defense satellite, every ship that launched to oppose them. And all the while, the bombardment continued. Macro cannons rained shells the size of buildings onto population centers. Lance batteries carved burning scars across continents. More cyclonic torpedoes burrowed into the mantle, each one accelerating the planet's death throes. The southern hemisphere's shield generators fell next. Then the equatorial arrays. Within 20 minutes, Raxus Secundus was completely exposed, and the Imperium was no longer targeting military installations. They were targeting everything. Droid factories, power plants, cities, spaceports, agricultural zones, residential districts. The Imperium made no distinction between military and civilian, between combatant and innocent. Everything that touched Xenos influence was purged with fire. Tambor managed to evacuate 17,000 human workers before the communications infrastructure collapsed. They fled in cargo haulers and personal transports, racing for orbit while the world burned beneath them. The Imperium let them pass. They were human, enslaved by Xenos masters, and therefore worthy of salvation even if they didn't yet understand it. Everyone else, 3 billion Geonosians, Neimoidians, Moons, Gossams, and dozens of other species, died. The planetary bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it ended, Raxus Secundus was a molten wasteland, its crust cracked, its atmosphere blown away, its biosphere completely sterilized. Nothing remained except cooling magma and the radioactive signatures of cyclonic detonations. Captain Cyrene stood in the observation deck, watching the dead world spin slowly beneath them. He felt no satisfaction, no triumph, only the cold certainty that he had done what was necessary. "My lord," Acting Admiral Severus reported, his voice carefully neutral. "We're receiving transmissions from Count Dooku. Multiple transmissions. He demands an explanation. He's furious would be an understatement." "Ignore him," Cyrene replied. "Plot a course for Sigma Tertius. We return to our forward base and fortify. The Separatists will come for us now. Let them. And the evacuated human slaves? Take them with us. They will be re-educated in the Imperial truth. They will learn what it means to serve the Emperor. Some may even be suitable for recruitment into the Imperial Guard. Humanity must be united, even if that unity must be forged through fire." Brother Librarian Isidore stared at the dead world, feeling something he hadn't felt in decades. Doubt, not in the Emperor, not in the Imperium, but in whether this path led to salvation or damnation. They had just killed 3 billion sentient beings to make an ideological point. "Was this wise, my lord?" he asked quietly. "Wisdom is a luxury for those who have options," Cyrene replied. "We do not. We are the Imperium of Man in a galaxy that does not understand what that means. Today we taught them. Tomorrow, they will either kneel or they will burn. There is no middle ground. There never was." On Sereno, Count Dooku watched the recordings of Raxus Secundus's death with a mixture of rage and cold calculation. 3 billion workers, countless factories, a major manufacturing center, all destroyed in hours because of ideological fanaticism. "They're monsters," General Grievous observed, his mechanical voice tinged with something approaching shock. "They killed more in 6 hours than the Republic has killed in 3 years of war." "They're believers," Dooku corrected, "which makes them infinitely more dangerous than monsters. Monsters can be reasoned with, bought off, redirected. Believers cannot. They will burn the entire galaxy rather than compromise their principles." "Then we destroy them," Grievous stated flatly. "We mobilize every droid we have and crush them before they can strike again." "No." Dooku stood, pacing his chamber. "We use this. The Republic will learn of Raxus Secundus. They will see what the Imperium is capable of. They will fear them as they have never feared the Separatists. And that fear, that horror, will divide them, weaken them, make them vulnerable. And when the Imperium turns on us, then we will be ready," Dooku replied. "I've already contacted my master. Lord Sidious is intrigued by these developments. He believes the Imperium can be useful for a while longer, but their usefulness has limits. And when those limits are reached, the full power of the Sith will be brought to bear." The holographic communicator activated, showing Darth Sidious's hooded face. "My apprentice, I have seen the destruction of Raxus Secundus. The Imperium has revealed their true nature, They are rabid dogs, useful for causing chaos, but ultimately too dangerous to exist. Shall I mobilize our forces against them, Master? Not yet. Let the Republic react first. Let them commit their forces to destroying this new threat. And while they bleed themselves fighting the Imperium, we complete our plans. Order 66 approaches, apprentice. Soon, the Jedi will fall. Soon, the Republic will become the Empire. And then, we will deal with the Imperium, along with every other threat to our new order. On Coruscant, in the Jedi Temple, Master Yoda meditated on the disturbance in the Force. He had felt 3 billion lives extinguished simultaneously, felt the cold, methodical nature of their deaths. Not hatred, not passion, simply policy. Master Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi burst into the meditation chamber, his face pale. The Imperium just destroyed Raxus Secundus, 3 billion dead. They performed what their prisoner calls exterminatus, total planetary annihilation, because the world employed alien workers. Yoda opened his eyes slowly. Seen this I have, through the Force. Worse than we feared, the Imperium is. Not conquerors they are. Genocidal fanatics, willing to burn entire worlds for ideology. The Senate is in chaos, Obi-Wan continued. Half want to focus all forces on destroying the Imperium immediately. The other half want to continue focusing on the Separatists. Chancellor Palpatine is calling for an emergency session to debate military priorities. And what do you believe, Obi-Wan? The Jedi Master was silent for a moment. I believe we're watching the galaxy tear itself apart. The Separatists want independence. The Sith want power. And the Imperium wants to exterminate every non-human in the galaxy. We're fighting 3 wars simultaneously, Master. I don't know if we can win them all. Win, we may not. Yoda agreed quietly. But fight, we must. For if surrender to any of these forces we do, then darkness eternal the galaxy faces. The Imperium, stopped, they must be, but carefully. For cornered they are, and cornered beasts, most dangerous they become. In the cold void of space, the Imperium fleet set course for their hidden base, carrying 17,000 traumatized human refugees who had just watched their world die. Behind them, they left a monument to their principles, a dead planet spinning in the darkness. A warning to any who would compromise with Xenos. The galaxy had learned what the Imperium of Man truly represented, and the lesson was written in fire. The evacuation of Sigma Tertius began within hours of the fleet's return. Captain Cyrene stood in the strategium, reviewing tactical projections that showed multiple fleets converging on their position. The destruction of Raxus Secundus had accomplished exactly what he'd intended. It had drawn a line in the void that could not be uncrossed. But it had also unified every force in this galaxy against them. Republic battle groups approaching from sectors 7 and 12, the augur officer reported. 15 capital ships confirmed. Separatist droid fleet detected in Sector 4. 800 vessels, likely the full Northern Armada. And we're detecting unknown energy signatures in Sector 9 that match neither Republic nor Separatist profiles. Pirates? Mercenaries? Acting Admiral Severus suggested. Worse, Brother Librarian Isidore said quietly, studying the sensor data. Those energy signatures match the descriptions in the captured Republic databases. The Hutts have sent their enforcers. We've achieved something remarkable. We've made the entire galaxy agree on one thing. We must be destroyed. Captain Cyrene absorbed this information without visible emotion. 300 years of warfare had taught him that tactical situations could be assessed, analyzed, responded to. Panic was for mortals who feared death. The Astartes feared only failure. Assessment, Brother Librarian? Can we win this engagement? Isidore's response was brutally honest. No, my lord. Not if all three forces coordinate their assault. We have 7 ships remaining, approximately 13,000 Imperial guardsmen, and 123 Astartes after combat losses. Against thousands of enemy vessels, the mathematics are unfavorable. Then we don't fight here, Cyrene decided. We've extracted what intelligence we could from this position. Time to relocate. Navigator Septimus, I need a course to the most isolated system within range, somewhere we can disappear while we adapt their hyperspace technology. Navigator Septimus stepped forward, his third eye, normally closed, normally sensing the warp's currents, now simply calculating stellar distances without supernatural aid. My lord, there is a system 17 light-years distant, uninhabited, binary star configuration with a massive asteroid field. No recorded Republic or Separatist presence. It would take us 4 weeks to reach it at standard sublight speeds. 4 weeks of pursuit, Acting Admiral Severus noted. They'll track us. Then we leave them something to find, Cyrene replied. A plan was forming, desperate, costly, but potentially effective. How many Imperial guardsmen can we afford to sacrifice? Colonel Commissar Drekken's augmetic eye whirred. My lord, every guardsman is precious now. We cannot replace losses. I'm aware, Commissar. Answer the question. Drekken calculated rapidly. 2,000. If we're to maintain defensive capability at our new base, we need at least 10,000. More would be preferable. 2,000 it is. Cyrene turned to his command staff. Here's what we do. We leave the damaged frigate Faithful Servant in orbit, crewed by 2,000 guardsmen and configured as a decoy. We rig her reactor to look functional on sensors, position her as if she's defending a hidden installation on the 3rd planet. The enemy fleets converge, waste time and munitions destroying her. And by the time they realize we've already departed, we're beyond pursuit range. The strategium fell silent. Every officer present understood what Captain Cyrene was proposing, condemning 2,000 men to certain death as a delaying action. In the Imperium, such sacrifices were common, expected, even honored. But here, cut off from reinforcement, every life was irreplaceable. The men will volunteer, Colonel Commissar Drekken said finally. It would be an honor to die in the Emperor's service, buying time for the survival of his Imperium. Select volunteers from the 17th Cadian, Cyrene commanded. Veterans only. Men who understand what they're being asked to do. And Commissar, make sure they understand this isn't punishment. This is the most important mission they'll ever receive. They buy us survival. They buy us time to turn this war around. As you command, my lord. Within 6 hours, the Faithful Servant was positioned in defensive orbit. Her skeleton crew of 2,000 Cadian veterans manning battle stations with grim determination. Captain Lieutenant Marcus Rain, a 40-year veteran of the 17th, stood on the frigate's bridge, watching the Imperium fleet depart on barely functioning engines, crawling away at sublight speeds that would take weeks to reach safety. Emperor protects, brothers, he voxed to his crew. We stand in his light, we fall in his name, and our deaths buy humanity's future in this cursed galaxy. Load all batteries. When they come, we show these Xenos lovers what Cadia means. Cadia stands. His crew responded in unison, the ancient battle cry of their regiment, their world, their culture. In the departing fleet, the 17,000 rescued humans from Raxus Secundus huddled in the cargo holds of the transport barks, traumatized, confused, surrounded by stern-faced guardsmen who spoke of the Emperor's mercy and salvation through service. Most didn't understand yet. They would. Re-education would see to that. Among them, a young woman named Sarah clutched her daughter, barely 3 years old, and tried to process what had happened. 3 days ago, she'd been a technician in a droid factory, living a quiet life under Separatist rule. Not ideal, but stable. Then the Imperium came. Then her world burned. Then giants in armor told her she'd been saved and must now serve the God Emperor of mankind or be purged as a heretic. "Mama, where's home?" her daughter asked in a small voice. Sarah held her tighter, staring at the cold metal walls of the transport hold. "I don't know, baby. I don't know." The Republic fleet arrived at Sigma Tertius first, commanded by Admiral Yularen, promoted after his predecessor's death in the Resolute's destruction. Beside him stood Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, both burning with determination to rescue the captured Jedi and avenge Mace Windu's death. Sensors detect one Imperial frigate in orbit of the third planet, the tactical officer reported. No other vessels in system. Either they've fled or they're hiding. "It's a trap," Anakin stated flatly. "Has to be. They're luring us in." "Perhaps," Obi-Wan agreed. "But we have to investigate. If our people are on that ship, if there's any chance Kit Fisto and the others are there, we have to try." Admiral Yularen studied the sensor data. Something felt wrong. One frigate damaged, remaining behind while the rest of the fleet fled. It didn't match the Imperium's tactical doctrine they'd observed. The Imperium didn't sacrifice ships casually. Unless it's not a trap, Yularen realized. It's a sacrifice. They left that ship to delay us while the rest escape. All ahead full. We need to disable that frigate and extract information about where their fleet went before they can get too far. But before the Republic fleet could close range, the Separatist armada arrived. 800 droid warships dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. At their center was Count Dooku's solar sailor, the Count himself standing on the bridge, his expression cold with calculated fury. "Admiral," the droid tactical coordinator reported in its monotone voice, "Republic fleet detected, and one Imperial frigate. The remainder of their fleet is not present. Then we destroy what's here and pursue the rest," Dooku commanded. "The Imperium thought they could destroy 3 billion of my workers without consequence. Today, they learn otherwise. All ships, open fire on Imperial vessel. The Republic can wait." The droid fleet opened fire, 1,000 turbo lasers and ion cannons turning space into a storm of energy. The faithful servant's void shields held for approximately 15 seconds before collapsing under the sustained barrage. Turbo laser fire began chewing into her armored hull. On the frigate's bridge, Captain Lieutenant Rain watched his ship die around him. Bulkheads buckled, corridors decompressed. His crew died at their stations, manning guns until the last second. "All batteries, return fire. If we're dying today, we're taking some of these bastards with us. For the Emperor." The faithful servant's lance batteries spoke one final time, carving through 2 Munificent-class frigates before her power systems failed. Macro cannons fired their last shells, crippling a Recusant-class destroyer. And then, as turbo laser fire reached her reactor core, she exploded, a miniature sun that vaporized 3 nearby droid vessels in her death throes. 2,000 Cadian veterans died in that explosion. Not one had retreated. Not one had surrendered. They had bought the Imperium fleet 6 hours of pursuit time. Admiral Yularen watched the explosion with a mixture of respect and horror. They didn't even try to evacuate. Didn't call for quarter. They just fought until they died. That's what makes them so dangerous, Obi-Wan said quietly. They don't fear death. They embrace it. How do you defeat an enemy that views dying for their cause as the ultimate victory? Anakin's mechanical hand clenched into a fist. We track them, find them, and we hit them so hard they don't get a chance to be martyrs. Agreed. Count Dooku's hologram appeared, interrupting the Republic command channel with arrogant confidence. For once, Jedi, we share a common goal. The Imperium must be destroyed before they can commit more atrocities. I propose a temporary truce. Both our fleets pursue them together, coordinate our assault. Eliminate this threat once and for all. Obi-Wan's jaw tightened. Everything in him rebelled against allying with Dooku, the man who served the Sith, who had orchestrated this entire war. But pragmatism demanded consideration. You allied with them first, used them against us. This is your fault. A miscalculation, Dooku admitted smoothly. I thought they could be controlled, directed. I was wrong. They're rabid dogs that must be put down. Surely even you can see the necessity of unity in the face of genocidal fanatics. Admiral Yularen looked to Obi-Wan for guidance. The Jedi Master stood silent, weighing options, feeling the currents of the Force swirl with warning and possibility. Working with Dooku was repugnant, but letting the Imperium escape to commit more exterminatus actions was unconscionable. Temporary truce, Obi-Wan said finally, until the Imperium is contained or destroyed. Then we return to our war. Agreed? Agreed, Dooku replied, his smile never reaching his eyes. I'll transmit their last known trajectory. My astrogation droids calculate their fleeing toward the Outer Rim's edge, uninhabited systems where they can hide and rebuild. We'll need to move fast if we want to catch them before they vanish into the void. The combined fleet, Republic and Separatist, old enemies now united by mutual terror of a greater threat, set course for pursuit. 15 Venators, 800 droid warships, and a shared determination to stop the Imperium before it could kill again. But in a hidden base, far from the pursuit, another player was making moves. The criminal cartels had watched Raxus Secundus burn with cold calculation. The Hutts, the Black Sun, the Pike Syndicate, they cared nothing for ideology or morality, only profit and survival. And the Imperium represented an existential threat to both. Jabba the Hutt lounged on his throne on Tatooine, his massive bulk shifting as he reviewed intelligence reports. Through translators, he issued commands to the assembled crime lords gathered via hologram. The Imperium is like a disease, his translator conveyed. They consume worlds, leave nothing. They cannot be reasoned with, bribed, or controlled. If they are not stopped, they will eventually reach our territories, our operations, our profits. Then we offer a bounty, suggested Prince Sizor of Black Sun, his feline features impassive. Every major bounty hunter in the galaxy, Boba Fett, Cad Bane, Aura Singh, we pay them to hunt the Imperium leadership, assassinate their commanders, destabilize their forces. Agreed, Jabba rumbled. 1 million credits per confirmed Imperium commander kill, 10 million for their overall leader. And we provide intelligence to both Republic and Separatist fleets for a price. We profit from this war while ensuring the Imperium cannot. The crime lords agreed. Within hours, the bounty was posted on every underground network in the galaxy. The greatest hunters in known space began plotting how to infiltrate Imperium ships, how to kill warriors in power armor, how to collect the largest bounty in galactic history. Boba Fett, working from his ship Slave Wink, studied the intelligence packets with professional interest. Armored giants, religious fanatics, superhuman reflexes. It would be the most challenging hunt of his career, and the most profitable. Aboard the fleeing litany of fury, Captain Cyrene stood in the chapel, praying before the Emperor's icon. He had sacrificed 2,000 men, destroyed an entire world, united every force in this galaxy against the Imperium. And for what? To buy time, to maintain ideological purity, to ensure that if the Imperium died in this galaxy, it died as itself, not as a compromised shadow. "Emperor," he whispered, "guide my hand. Show me the path. We are hunted, outnumbered, alone in a hostile universe. But we are still yours. We are still the Imperium. Tell me, was Raxus Secundus your will? Or have I damned us all with fanaticism?" The icon remained silent. It always did. But in the darkness of the chapel, Cyrene felt something. Not the Emperor's voice, but the weight of 300 years of service. The accumulated wisdom of 1,000 battles. The knowledge that war was not about being right, but about surviving long enough to enforce your truth. They would survive. They would adapt. And when the time came, they would show this galaxy what 10,000 years of human supremacy looked like. In the cargo holds, the re-education of 17,000 refugees continued. Commissars lectured them on the Imperial truth. Tech priests implanted basic cogitators to monitor their thoughts for heresy. Guard sergeants drilled them in basic combat doctrine, preparing them to serve as auxiliary forces. Some resisted. They were shot as examples. Most complied, their spirits broken, their old lives burned away along with their world. They would become Imperial citizens, whether they wanted to or not. And across the galaxy, the greatest military buildup in recent history accelerated. Republic and Separatist fleets coordinating tactics, crime lord assassins sharpening their blades, Jedi masters meditating on how to counter an enemy that existed outside the Force. All of them united by a single purpose: destroy the Imperium before it could destroy them. The trap was closing, the noose was tightening, and Captain Cyrene had no illusions about their chances if caught. But the Imperium had been fighting impossible odds for 10,000 years. This was just another Tuesday. Just 3 weeks into their flight, the Imperium fleet reached the unnamed binary star system, a gravitational anomaly where two red dwarfs orbited each other in a deadly dance, surrounded by a massive asteroid field that had once been a shattered planet. Here, hidden in the debris and radiation, they would make their stand. Magos Brennus VII worked without rest in the makeshift Forge Temple. His 17 augmetic eyes focused on the dissected hyperspace motivator extracted from the morning star. Around him, junior tech priests chanted binary prayers, while servitors lobotomized humans reduced to organic machinery, welded components, and ran diagnostic cables. "Progress?" Captain Cyrene asked, entering the chamber. "Remarkable," the Magos replied, his augmetic voice crackling with what might have been excitement. "The hyperspace dimension these people utilize is not the warp. It's a stable subdimensional layer with predictable physics. No diamonds, no madness, just mathematics and careful navigation. We can replicate this technology, given sufficient time." "How much time?" 4 months for full integration into our fleet. 2 months for a prototype installation on a single vessel. "You have 3 weeks, Cyrene stated flatly. "Maybe less. The pursuit fleet will find us eventually. When they do, we need the ability to escape, or they'll destroy us through attrition." Brennus VII's mechadendrites twitched in what might have been frustration. "My lord, rushing sacred tech work invites malfunction. The machine god demands proper ritual. The machine god isn't here," Cyrene interrupted coldly. Neither is the Omnissiah. Neither is the Fabricator General of Mars. We are alone, Magos, in a galaxy that wants us dead. Adapt or die, those are our options. Now tell me, can you give us hyperspace capability in 3 weeks? Or should I start planning our last stand? The Magos was silent for a long moment, his organic brain processing scenarios at enhanced speed. I can install a functional, if unstable, hyperspace drive on the Litany of Fury in 18 days. It will be temperamental, possibly dangerous, but operational. Good enough. Make it happen. Cyrene left the Forge Temple and made his way through the strike cruiser's corridors, past guardsmen fortifying positions, past refugees being drilled in basic Imperial catechisms, past the reinforced brig where 6 Jedi prisoners remained in null field confinement. He stopped at the brig. Time to extract value from their captives. Kit Fisto sat in his cell, meditating despite the null field generators that suppressed his connection to the Force. The Nautilon Jedi Master had been interrogated 3 times by Brother Librarian Isidore, subjected to chemical agents that would have broken most beings. But his training allowed him to compartmentalize, to hide the deepest secrets, even from his own conscious mind. But he was weakening. They all were. Master Jedi, Cyrene greeted, standing outside the cell. I thought we might have a conversation, warrior to warrior. Kit Fisto opened his eyes, studying his captor. Warriors don't execute 3 billion civilians. Civilians? Cyrene's tone was genuinely puzzled. Those were Xenos, non-humans. They're not civilians. They're evolutionary competitors for resources humanity requires. Their existence threatened human supremacy. We eliminated the threat. That's not murder. That's survival. That's genocide. Semantics. Cyrene activated a holographic display, showing stellar charts of the galaxy. Let me show you something, Jedi. In our universe, humanity fights on 10,000 fronts against aliens that would exterminate us. Orcs, brutal fungi that exist only to wage war. Tyranids, galaxy-devouring swarms that consume all biomass. Necrons, undead machines that view organic life as vermin. Dark Eldar, sadists who torture souls for sustenance. And dozens of others, each one seeking humanity's extinction. He zoomed in on specific sectors. In this universe, you've built a civilization where humans and aliens coexist peacefully. You call it enlightened. We call it suicide. Because peace is temporary. Cooperation is fragile. But species competition is eternal. When resources grow scarce, when survival demands sacrifice, your alien friends will turn on you. They always do. Kit Fisto listened, his Force-trained mind analyzing every word for psychological leverage points. The Force connects all living things. It teaches us that diversity strengthens the galaxy, that unity across species creates resilience. The Force, Cyrene replied with barely concealed disdain, is the psychic energy field your people manipulate. It's powerful, yes. Useful, certainly. But it's not truth. It's not morality. It's simply power. And power wielded by unsanctioned psychers without proper oversight leads to corruption, madness, demonic possession. We have no demons in this galaxy. Yet. Cyrene leaned closer to the transparent steel. You have the Force, Master Jedi. But you don't understand what you're wielding. In our universe, psychic powers draw attention from the warp, a dimension of pure chaos where demons feast on souls. Your Force may be different, cleaner, but power always attracts corruption. It's only a matter of time before something dark finds a way through. Kit Fisto felt a chill despite himself. The absolute certainty in Cyrene's voice was unnerving. This wasn't fanaticism for its own sake. This was belief forged in 10,000 years of survival against impossible odds. Wrong, but internally consistent. "What do you want from me?" Kit Fisto asked. "Information, cooperation. We know the Republic is pursuing us, probably allied with the Separatists. We need to understand their tactical capabilities, their fleet compositions, their command structures. You can provide this. In exchange, I can ensure your survival and potentially negotiate for your release when this conflict ends." "You want me to betray my people." "I want you to survive," Cyrene corrected. "Your Republic is allied with Count Dooku, a man you've been fighting for 3 years. They've compromised their principles for pragmatism. Why shouldn't you?" "Because betraying allies to genocidal fanatics isn't pragmatism. It's cowardice." Cyrene studied the Jedi Master for a long moment. "You're correct. It would be cowardice, which is why you won't do it, and why I respect you for that refusal. But understand this, Master Jedi. When our enemies find us, and they will, we will fight to the last. Every ship, every soldier, every Astartes. We will not surrender. We will not negotiate. We will either win or die. And if you're still aboard when that happens, you'll die with us." "Then I die with honor," Kit Fisto replied quietly. "Better than living as an accomplice to your atrocities." Cyrene nodded slowly, something approaching respect flickering in his eyes. "Spoken like a warrior. The Emperor would have valued you, Master Jedi. In another life, you might have been sanctioned, trained properly, made into something remarkable. But in this life, you're simply an enemy. A worthy one, but still an enemy." He turned to leave, then paused. "One more question. Your Force, can it predict the future?" Kit Fisto hesitated. "Sometimes, in fragments, visions that may or may not come to pass. The future is always in motion." "Have you seen our future? Yours and mine?" "I've seen fire," Kit Fisto admitted. "Fleets burning, worlds dying, darkness spreading. But I don't know if that darkness is you, or something worse you'll awaken with your actions." Cyrene absorbed this. "Then we'll face that darkness together, Master Jedi, when it comes." The pursuit fleet found them on the 19th day. Admiral Yularen's scouts detected the Imperium's energy signatures in the binary system and immediately transmitted coordinates to the combined Republic Separatist armada. Within 12 hours, the full force arrived. 15 Venators, 800 droid warships, and supporting vessels carrying enough firepower to crack planetary shields. "They've fortified the asteroid field," the Republic tactical officer reported. "Turned it into a defensive perimeter, weapon emplacements on the larger asteroids. Minefields throughout the approach vectors. They're dug in deep." Obi-Wan Kenobi studied the sensor data with a sinking feeling. "They've had 3 weeks to prepare. They've turned this entire system into a fortress. Taking it will cost us." "Then we pay the cost," Anakin stated, his impatience evident. "Kit Fisto and the others are down there. We're not leaving without them." Count Dooku's hologram materialized beside them, his expression calculating. "The Jedi's emotional attachment is showing. But young Skywalker is correct. We must attack. The alternative is allowing the Imperium to complete whatever they're building and potentially escape. I propose a simultaneous assault from 3 vectors. Overwhelm their defenses through sheer numbers." "A meat grinder," Admiral Yularen observed. "We'll take heavy casualties." "The droids can absorb casualties," Dooku replied smoothly. "That's what they're designed for. Your clone troopers can exploit the gaps they create. Obi-Wan hated the logic, but couldn't deny its soundness. Coordinate the assault. All Jedi to strike craft. We board their flagship during the chaos. If we can capture or kill their leadership, the rest might surrender. They won't surrender, Anakin said quietly, remembering the Cadian defenders who had fought to the last aboard the faithful servant. But maybe we can end this faster. The combined fleet moved into attack formation. Droid ships formed the vanguard, expendable, numerous, overwhelming. Republic Venators positioned behind them, ready to exploit breakthroughs. And Jedi strike craft prepared for boarding action, each one carrying a knight or master, burning with determination to rescue their comrades. On the litany of fury, Captain Cyrene watched the enemy fleet approach with cold calculation. 7 Imperial ships against 1,500 enemy vessels. The odds were mathematically impossible. All ships to defensive positions, he commanded. Lance batteries charged. Void shields at maximum. Prepare for sustained engagement. And Magos, status on the hyperspace drive? Brenna 7's response crackled through the Vox. 83% functional. Another 6 hours and... We don't have 6 hours. Bring it online now. We'll use it incomplete if necessary. My lord, the risks are acceptable compared to certain death. Do it. The battle began with a droid wave. 300 vessels accelerating toward the asteroid field. Ion cannons and turbo lasers firing at maximum rate. The Imperium's fortified asteroids responded with lance batteries and macro cannons, each shot precisely calculated to maximize damage. The void between fleets filled with expanding debris as ships died by the dozens. But the droids kept coming. Vulture fighters swarmed through the asteroid field, accepting catastrophic losses to locate and destroy weapon emplacements. Munificent frigates rammed fortified asteroids, their reactors detonating on impact to create gaps in the defensive perimeter. They're trading 50 ships for every gun emplacement, Acting Admiral Severus reported. At this rate, they'll break through in 2 hours. Then we hold for 2 hours, Cyrene replied. All Thunderhawks launch. Target their command ships. If we're dying today, we're taking their admirals with us. 20 Thunderhawk gunships roared through the battle space, their assault cannons tearing through droid fighters, their armored hulls absorbing damage that would vaporize normal craft. They targeted the Republic Venators, seeking to board and kill the commanders coordinating the assault. But the Jedi were waiting. Obi-Wan Kenobi piloted his Delta 7 interceptor through the chaos, feeling the Force guide his movements as laser fire filled space around him. He spotted a Thunderhawk approaching the negotiator and accelerated to intercept, his fighter's cannon stitching fire across the gunship's starboard engine. The Thunderhawk pilot, brother pilot Castor, compensated immediately, rolling his craft and returning fire with assault cannons that would have shredded Obi-Wan's fighter if the Jedi hadn't sensed the attack a microsecond before it came. The Force screamed warning, and Obi-Wan twisted through impossible maneuvers, the Thunderhawk's shells missing by meters. This pilot is remarkable, Castor voxed to his squad. Superhuman reflexes, impossible to target. It's like he knows where I'm going to shoot before I do. That's because he does. Brother Librarian Isidore's voice crackled back. Their Force allows precognition. You're not fighting the pilot, you're fighting destiny itself. Disengage. Return to fleet. Castor acknowledged, but not before firing one final burst at Obi-Wan's fighter. The Jedi sensed it coming, rolled to evade, and watched in horror as his wingman, clone pilot CT-7865, failed to react in time. The assault cannon shells tore through the clone's fighter, killing him instantly. "Gold 5!" Obi-Wan shouted, but the pilot was already gone. The battle descended into a grinding meat grinder, droid ships died by the hundreds, their wreckage forming a debris field that complicated navigation. Republic Venators pushed through, taking heavy damage but maintaining formation. The Imperium's fortified asteroids fell one by one, each one extracted at terrible cost. And then the Republic boarding parties breached the litany of fury. 12 LAAT gunships, each carrying a Jedi and 2 squads of elite clone troopers, punched through the strike cruiser's point defenses. They landed in the hangar bay, and the Jedi poured out, lightsabers ignited, determined to end this. Anakin Skywalker led the assault, his blue blade a blur of lethal motion. He carved through the first rank of defending guardsmen, the Force amplifying his strength, his speed, his fury. Behind him, Jedi Knights fanned out. Ahsoka Tano, his Padawan, moving with acrobatic grace. Ayla Secura's clone, rescued from another battle, fighting with desperate vengeance. But the Astartes were ready. Captain Cyrene met them in the main corridor, flanked by his command squad. 10 Blood Ravens veterans, each one carrying centuries of combat experience. They opened fire with bolters, the explosive rounds filling the corridor with deafening thunder. Anakin deflected the bolter fire, his lightsaber moving faster than human eyes could follow. But there were too many rounds, coming too fast, from too many angles. One grazed his shoulder, the explosive detonating against his armor, sending him stumbling. Another hit a clone trooper, turning the soldier into red mist. "Push forward," Anakin commanded, channeling the Force into a massive kinetic wave that threw 3 Astartes backward. "Don't let them pin us down." Brother Sergeant Thaddeus, recovered from his earlier wounds, raised his plasma pistol and fired at Ahsoka Tano. The superheated bolt moved at near light speed, too fast even for Force precognition to fully counter. Ahsoka twisted, the bolt scorching past her head by centimeters, singing her Leku. "These aren't droids," she gasped, suddenly understanding. "They think. They adapt. Every move we make, they're learning from it." "Then we teach them fear," Anakin snarled, reaching deep into the Force, pulling on reserves he rarely touched. The corridor's bulkheads began to buckle, atmospheric pressure shifting as he manipulated the very air around them. "You want a war? You've got one." Captain Cyrene felt the strange pressure, felt the impossible forces being wielded by this young warrior who radiated barely controlled fury. "Interesting," he observed clinically, then addressed his squad. "Frag grenades, saturation pattern, now." 20 grenades bounced down the corridor. Anakin sensed them immediately, used the Force to hurl them back, but 3 detonated mid-flight, the shrapnel tearing into clone troopers, forcing the Jedi to shield their soldiers rather than press the attack. It was the opening the Astartes needed. They advanced, firing disciplined bursts, coordinating their movements with transhuman precision, turning the corridor into a killing field. And in the Forge Temple, Magos Brennus VII activated the prototype hyperspace drive. The litany of fury lurched as reality bent around it, the ship beginning to shift and into the hyperspace dimension. But the drive was unstable, incomplete, barely functional. The transition stuttered, failed, restarted, creating gravitational anomalies throughout the vessel. In the corridor, the deck suddenly tilted 30 degrees. Anakin and the Astartes both stumbled, their footing lost as local gravity fluctuated wildly. Lightsabers and bolters fell silent for a moment as both sides struggled to maintain balance. "What are they doing?" Ahsoka gasped, clinging to a bulkhead. "They're trying to escape," Anakin realized. "They're activating some kind of drive. We have to stop them. If they get away..." The ship lurched again, and suddenly they were moving, not at sublight speeds, but at something else entirely. The viewport showed stars, streaking, elongating, the visual signature of hyperspace transition. Outside, Admiral Yularen watched in shock as the litany of fury simply vanished. Not into hyperspace cleanly, but flickering, stuttering, partially present and partially absent, like an image failing to load properly. "Where did they go?" Commander Cody demanded. "Unknown," the sensor officer replied. "Their hyperspace signature is erratic, unstable. They could be anywhere within 1,000 light years, or they could have torn themselves apart trying to jump with an incomplete drive. The remaining Imperium ships, 6 frigates and support vessels, suddenly broke formation, scattering in different directions, each one making its own desperate escape attempt. Some succeeded. Some were destroyed by pursuing Republic or Separatist forces. But the litany of fury, carrying Captain Cyrene, the Jedi prisoners, 17,000 refugees, and now a dozen Jedi attackers, including Anakin Skywalker, was gone. Aboard the crippled flagship, reality stabilized. The hyperspace drive shut down, either from damage or deliberate deactivation. They had escaped, but barely, and to an unknown location. Anakin Skywalker stood in the darkened corridor, surrounded by clone bodies, facing Captain Cyrene across 10 meters of blood-slicked deck. Behind the Astartes captain, more blood ravens were emerging from side corridors, weapons ready. "Surrender," Anakin commanded, his lightsaber humming. "You've lost. Your fleet is scattered. Your base destroyed. It's over." Captain Cyrene looked at the young Jedi, powerful, skilled, burning with barely controlled emotion, and saw something familiar. A warrior who could be great or could fall to darkness, balanced on a knife's edge. "Over?" Cyrene almost smiled. "Young one, this war has only just begun." And throughout the crippled ship, the battle continued as 2 forces, Imperium and Republic, fought for control of a vessel spinning through hyperspace toward an unknown destination, carrying the seeds of victory or destruction for both sides. The galaxy held its breath and waited to see who would emerge victorious. The hyperspace transition ended with catastrophic violence. The litany of fury, her incomplete drive failing under the strain, was violently ejected from the hyperspace dimension into real space, and directly into the gravity well of an unknown world. Alarms screamed across every deck as the strike cruiser tumbled through the planet's upper atmosphere, her hull superheating, her damaged engines struggling to arrest the descent. Captain Cyrene pulled himself upright on the bridge, his armor's maglocks gripping the deck as the ship bucked and shuddered. "Damage report. Main engines at 17%, Acting Admiral Severus reported, blood streaming from a gash across his forehead. "Void shields offline. Hull integrity at 63% and falling. We're in uncontrolled descent toward planetary surface. Impact in 4 minutes. Navigator, where are we?" Navigator Septimus, his third eye bleeding from psychic feedback, gasped out coordinates. "Unknown system, my lord. 3 planets, yellow sun. We've emerged in orbit of the second world. Appears habitable, oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. But no Imperial records, no Republic databases. We're completely lost." "Then we make planetfall and regroup," Cyrene commanded. "All hands brace for impact. Engine sears, give me everything the engines have. I want a controlled crash, not a crater." Throughout the ship, guardsmen strapped themselves into crash harnesses. Refugees screamed in terror as the deck tilted at impossible angles. And in the corridors, Jedi and Astartes both abandoned their firefight to simply survive the descent. Anakin Skywalker braced himself against a bulkhead, using the Force to shield himself and his surviving troops from debris. Around him, 5 Jedi Knights and 20 clone troopers clung to whatever anchors they could find. "Hold on, we're going down." The litany of fury hit the planet's surface at 300 kilometers per hour, her retro thrusters firing at maximum burn, arresting just enough momentum to prevent total destruction. She carved a 10-kilometer trench across an alien landscape. Forests of crystalline trees that shattered like glass under her hull, a river that boiled to steam, rocky hills that crumpled into dust. Then she stopped. The bridge lights flickered, failed, then returned on emergency power. Serene stood slowly, his armor systems reporting damage, but nothing critical. Around him, his bridge crew pulled themselves upright, checking systems, confirming survival. "Status of all decks," he commanded. Reports flooded in over the next 10 minutes. 17 decks breached, 300 dead from the crash, guardsmen, refugees, tech priests crushed by falling debris or incinerated when plasma conduits ruptured. The ship was crippled, possibly beyond repair without extensive dockyard facilities they didn't have. But they were alive. "Seal all breached sections," Cyrene ordered. "Damage control parties to critical systems. Get me a scan of this world. Atmosphere composition, potential threats, indigenous populations." Magos Brennus 7's damaged form appeared on the bridge, half his augmetics sparking, coolant leaking from ruptured tubes. "My lord, the hyperspace drive is destroyed, completely unsalvageable. We will not be making another jump." "Then this is where we stand," Cyrene stated. "This world becomes our fortress. We salvage what we can from the ship, establish a perimeter, and prepare for the enemy to find us. Because they will. Eventually." "My lord," Brother Librarian Isidore voxed from the lower decks. "We have a situation. The Jedi boarding party survived the crash. They're regrouping in sections 7 through 12, and they've freed the Jedi prisoners. We now have 18 Jedi aboard, armed, organized, and moving toward the bridge." Serene absorbed this news without visible emotion. "How many Astartes combat capable?" 73, my lord. The crash took heavy toll on our brothers." "And guardsmen?" "Approximately 8,000. The rest dead or critically wounded." 73 Astartes and 8,000 guardsmen against 18 Jedi and their clone supporters. Normally, the mathematics would favor the Imperium. But they were aboard a crippled ship, exhausted from battle, low on ammunition and supplies. "Seal the bridge," Cyrene commanded. "Full defensive positions. If they want to take command of this vessel, they'll pay for it in blood." 3 decks below, Anakin Skywalker stood with Kit Fisto, Ahsoka Tano, and 15 other Jedi in a damaged cargo bay, assessing their situation. The null field generators had failed in the crash, allowing Kit Fisto and the other prisoners to reconnect with the Force. Now reunited, the Jedi represented a significant combat force. But they were surrounded by enemies in a crippled ship on an unknown world. "We need to take the bridge," Anakin stated. "Capture their command staff, force them to surrender. It's the only way to end this without more bloodshed." Kit Fisto shook his head slowly, his Nautolan headtail swaying. "I've spent 3 weeks as their prisoner, Anakin. I've spoken with their captain, their tech priests, their common soldiers. They will not surrender. Surrender is not in their vocabulary. They would rather activate this ship's reactor overload and kill everyone aboard than submit to what they view as Xenos lovers." "Then we're at an impasse," Ahsoka observed. "We can't take the ship without massive casualties. They can't repair the ship without our cooperation. And we're all stranded on an alien world with no way off." "Not quite an impasse." Obi-Wan's voice crackled through the comlink. The Jedi Master had remained with the Republic fleet, but he had tracked the litany of Fury's erratic hyperspace signature. Anakin, this is Obi-Wan. We followed your trajectory. We'll reach your position in approximately 6 hours. Hold your position. Don't engage unless necessary. Relief is coming. 6 hours? Anakin looked around the damaged cargo bay. Master, they'll fortify every corridor between us and them. By the time you arrive, trying to extract us will turn into a bloodbath. Then perhaps, Kit Fisto said quietly, it's time we tried something radical. Something neither side has attempted yet. What? Anakin demanded. Negotiation. Real negotiation. Not ultimatums or threats. We're all stranded here, Anakin. Imperium and Republic alike. Neither side has the resources to win decisively. Maybe it's time to acknowledge that reality and find another path. You want to negotiate with genocidal fanatics? Anakin's voice rose with incredulity. They destroyed Raxus Secundus. 3 billion dead. They'll never compromise. Perhaps, Kit Fisto agreed. But I've seen something in Captain Cyrene that gives me hope. He's a fanatic, yes, but he's also pragmatic. He makes compromises when survival demands it. He allied with Count Dooku despite his xenophobia. He rescued human slaves from Raxus Secundus even while destroying the world. He's capable of seeing past doctrine when necessary. If we approach him not as enemies, but as fellow warriors trapped by circumstance, we might find common ground. Common ground with people who view aliens as vermin? Common ground based on mutual survival, Kit Fisto corrected. We don't have to agree with their ideology. We just have to survive long enough to find a way home. Both of us. Anakin wanted to refuse, wanted to continue the fight, wanted to storm the bridge and end this through force. But he could feel the Force's currents shifting, showing him two paths. One led to more death, more destruction, a final battle in the corridors of a crippled ship that would leave both sides devastated. The other led into uncertainty, but possibly, a third option. Fine, he said finally. We try talking. But if they attack, we defend ourselves. And if they refuse to negotiate, we take the bridge by force. Agreed? The assembled Jedi nodded reluctantly. They were warriors, yes, but they were also peacekeepers. If there was any chance of ending this without more bloodshed, they had to try. Captain Cyrene received the communication request with surprise. The Jedi wanted to parley, wanted to send representatives to the bridge under flag of truce. It was so unexpected, so antithetical to his understanding of how final battles worked, that he actually paused before responding. Brother Librarian, assessment. Is this a trick? Isidore, standing at his captain's shoulder, reached out with his psychic senses, still limited in this universe, but functional. I sense exhaustion, my lord. Resignation. The Jedi are tired of fighting a war they can't win decisively. They're looking for a way out that doesn't involve mutual annihilation. They could simply wait for their fleet to arrive and overwhelm us. At what cost? We're dug into this ship like ticks. Every corridor they take, we make them pay for. By the time their fleet arrives, both sides will have lost hundreds, maybe thousands. They're warriors, but they're also pragmatists. They'd rather negotiate than slaughter. Cyrene considered this. Everything in his training said to refuse, to fight to the last, to die rather than compromise. But he had already compromised, with Dooku, with tactical retreats, with rescuing refugees from Raxus Secundus instead of letting them burn. Where was the line? When did pragmatism become heresy? Tell them we accept, he decided. 3 Jedi unarmed may approach the bridge. We will not fire unless fired upon. But make it clear, this is a parley, not a surrender negotiation. We will not submit. We will not disarm. We will discuss mutual survival. Nothing more. The message was sent. 20 minutes later, 3 Jedi arrived at the bridge's blast doors. Kit Fisto, Anakin Skywalker, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, who had arrived ahead of the fleet in a fast courier ship and landed near the crash site. The blast doors opened. The 3 Jedi entered, their lightsabers secured but visible on their belts. Surrounding them were 20 Astartes, bolters aimed but not firing. At the center stood Captain Cyrene, his crimson armor scarred from 100 battles, his helmet removed to reveal a weathered face that had seen 3 centuries of war. "Master Jedi," he greeted formally. "I am Captain Gabriel Cyrene of the Blood Ravens chapter, servant of the God Emperor of mankind. You wish to speak? Speak." Obi-Wan stepped forward, his diplomatic training evident in his bearing. "Captain Cyrene, I am Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. We are not here to demand your surrender or to threaten you with destruction. We're here to acknowledge a simple reality. We're all trapped on this world. Your ship is crippled beyond your ability to repair without external assistance. Our forces will arrive shortly. But extracting our people from your ship would cost hundreds of lives on both sides. Neither outcome serves anyone's interests." "Continue," Cyrene said neutrally. "We propose a temporary cessation of hostilities. A survival pact, if you will. We assist in securing your ship against environmental hazards. You release your prisoners and allow our people to evacuate safely. When both sides are clear of this vessel, we part ways and return to our respective forces. No surrender, no submission, just survival." Captain Cyrene studied the 3 Jedi for a long moment. He could sense his command squad's disapproval, could feel Brother Librarian Isidore's concern. This was not the Imperial way. The Imperial way was total victory or glorious martyrdom. But the Imperial way also valued pragmatism in service of ultimate objectives. "And after we part ways?" Cyrene asked. "Your fleets continue hunting us. Your Jedi continue attacking our forces. This survival pact merely delays the inevitable." "Perhaps," Kit Fisto admitted, "but delays create opportunities. Time for both sides to reevaluate, to reassess, to consider whether this war serves anyone's true interests. You're stranded in our galaxy, Captain, cut off from your Imperium, fighting everyone simultaneously, Republic, Separatists, crime syndicates. You cannot win this war through force alone. Eventually, your resources will run out. Your soldiers will die. Your ships will be destroyed. And for what? For the Emperor," Cyrene replied simply. "For the Imperium, for humanity's survival. We do not measure success in short-term victory or defeat. We measure it in commitment to principles that transcend individual lives." Anakin stepped forward, his impatience barely contained. "Principles? You call genocide a principle? You destroyed Raxus Secundus because alien workers existed on the surface. That's not principles, that's madness." "It's consistency," Cyrene corrected, his voice hardening. "You negotiate with Xenos when convenient, fight them when necessary, shift your alliances based on political expedience. We do not. We recognize that humanity's survival requires absolute unity, absolute commitment, absolute refusal to compromise with evolutionary competitors. That's not madness. That's survival strategy proven over 10,000 years. In your universe," Obi-Wan interjected. "But this is not your universe, Captain. Here, multiple species have coexisted peacefully for millennia. Your 10,000-year war doesn't apply to our reality. Perhaps what worked in your galaxy doesn't work in ours." Cyrene was silent for a long moment. It was a fair point, one he had wrestled with privately during long watches in the chapel. Could Imperial doctrine apply in a universe where the fundamental conditions were different? Where the warp didn't exist? Where aliens seemed genuinely capable of peaceful coexistence? But acknowledging that doubt meant questioning everything. And he had already compromised enough. "Your argument has merit," he admitted finally. "But it changes nothing. We are the Imperium. We carry our principles with us, regardless of location. Even stranded in your galaxy, we remain what we are. However," he paused, calculating, "your proposal has practical value. We cannot repair this ship without external resources. You cannot extract your people without heavy casualties. A temporary cessation serves both our interests. Here are my terms." He began counting on his gauntleted fingers. 1. All Jedi prisoners and captured clone troopers are released and may depart with your forces. 2. You provide us with technical assistance to stabilize this vessel's reactor and life support systems, not repair, merely stabilization. 3. We retain all salvage rights to this ship and surrounding territory. 4. Both sides establish a neutral zone extending 100 kilometers from this crash site. 5. After 72 hours, this truce ends, and we return to our respective forces. Agreed? Obi-Wan and Kit Fisto exchanged glances, silently communicating through the Force. Anakin looked ready to argue, but Kit Fisto's subtle gesture silenced him. The terms were fair. Surprisingly so. They achieved all their immediate objectives while giving the Imperium what it needed to survive. "Agreed," Obi-Wan said finally. "With one addition. Neither side attempts to track or monitor the other's movements after the 72-hour period ends. Clean separation. No pursuit." "Acceptable," Cyrene replied. "Brother Librarian, draft the formal terms and have both sides sign. Begin immediate evacuation protocols for Jedi prisoners." The next 72 hours passed in a strange interlude of cooperation amid conflict. Republic engineers worked alongside Mechanicus tech priests to stabilize the litany of Fury's reactor. Both sides eyeing each other warily but maintaining professional conduct. Jedi helped evacuate wounded guardsmen to surface facilities, their healing techniques proving valuable. Astartes provided security against local predators, massive crystalline creatures that prowled the alien forests, drawn by the crash site's heat signatures. Kit Fisto found himself working beside Brother Librarian Isidore, both using their respective powers to contain a plasma leak that threatened to explode. The Jedi used the Force to create pressure barriers. The Librarian used his limited psychic abilities to manipulate magnetic fields. Together, they sealed the breach. "Your Force is remarkable," Isidore admitted as they worked. "More refined than warp powers, more stable. In another universe, you would have been trained as a sanctioned psyker. Served the Emperor." "And in another universe," Kit Fisto replied, "your Imperium might have learned that diversity strengthens rather than weakens. That cooperation achieves what domination cannot." "Perhaps," Isidore conceded. "Or perhaps we would have been destroyed by that diversity when the inevitable crisis came. We'll never know. We can only act on what we've learned from our own history." Anakin Skywalker found Captain Cyrene standing at the edge of the crash site, looking out at the alien landscape. The young Jedi approached cautiously, his hand near his lightsaber, but not on it. "You saved those people from Raxus Secundus," Anakin said. "The human workers. You evacuated them before you destroyed the planet." "Yes," Cyrene replied simply. Why? If you were committed to total destruction, why bother saving anyone? Because they were human, Cyrene explained. Enslaved by Xenos, corrupted by proximity to alien influence, but still human, still salvageable. We killed the Xenos because they were evolutionary competitors that threatened humanity. We saved the humans because they were kin. The distinction is clear to us, even if it's incomprehensible to you. But some of those aliens were peaceful. Workers, not soldiers. Families. Peaceful today, Cyrene countered. But tomorrow, when resources grow scarce, when their survival competes with human survival, history teaches us that peace between species is temporary. Competition is eternal. We eliminate the threat before it manifests, not after. It's harsh, but it's honest. Anakin wanted to argue, wanted to prove him wrong. But part of him, the part that had lost his mother to raiders, that had seen countless atrocities during the Clone Wars, understood the dark logic. You're wrong, he said finally, but I understand why you believe it. Cyrene almost smiled. That's more than most offer. You have potential, young one. Your power is immense. In our Imperium, you would have been recruited into the Librarius, trained to channel your abilities properly. But here, you're left half-trained, vulnerable to corruption. Be careful. Power without absolute conviction leads to damnation. I have conviction, Anakin replied. In the Republic, in the Jedi, in protecting those who can't protect themselves. Then hold to it, Cyrene advised. Because this galaxy is going to test that conviction in ways you cannot imagine. And when it does, you'll face a choice. Compromise your principles or sacrifice everything to maintain them. I hope you choose wisely. The 72 hours ended. The Jedi evacuated with their freed prisoners and clone troopers. Republic ships arrived to extract them, maintaining the agreed-upon neutral zone. The Imperium remained at the crash site, fortifying their position, salvaging what they could from the litany of fury. On the bridge of the Negotiator, Obi-Wan stood with Kit Fisto and Anakin, watching the crippled Imperial vessel grow smaller as they departed. Did we do the right thing? Anakin asked. Letting them go? They're monsters. They're warriors fighting for what they believe is humanity's survival. Kit Fisto replied. Wrong, perhaps. Misguided, certainly, but not without honor. And sometimes, Master Skywalker, pragmatism demands we choose survival over revenge. Master Yoda will want a full report, Obi-Wan said. The Council needs to understand what we learned. The Imperium is stranded, crippled, but still dangerous. They'll rebuild, they'll adapt, and eventually, we'll face them again. Then what? Anakin asked. Then we'll be ready, Obi-Wan replied. But perhaps next time, we'll remember that even enemies can choose survival over slaughter. Perhaps there's hope for resolution that doesn't involve mutual annihilation. At the crash site, Captain Cyrene stood before his assembled Astartes and guardsmen. Behind them, 17,000 refugees, former slaves from Raxus Secundus, now indoctrinated into Imperial belief, stood in ranks, ready to serve. Brothers, sisters, Cyrene addressed them. We are stranded in a hostile galaxy, cut off from the Imperium, hunted by forces that outnumber us thousands to one. Our ship is crippled, our resources limited. By any logical assessment, we should be dead within a year. He paused, letting that sink in. But we are not dead. We are alive. We are the Imperium of Man, and wherever we stand, there stands the Emperor's domain. This world, he gestured to the alien landscape, is now Imperial territory. These people, he indicated the refugees, are now Imperial citizens. And we, he looked at his scarred, battered forces, are the seeds from which a new Imperium will grow. We will fortify this world. We will build. We will grow. We will recruit. And one day, when we are strong enough, we will carry the Emperor's light to every world in this galaxy. Not through compromise, not through negotiation, but through strength, conviction, and the absolute certainty that humanity's survival is worth any price. "The Emperor protects," he roared. "The Emperor protects," his forces answered, the cry echoing across the alien landscape. And in the stars above, three powers, Republic, Separatist, and Imperium, continued their endless dance of war and diplomacy, each one believing their path was righteous, each one willing to sacrifice everything for victory. The galaxy had changed forever. The arrival of the Imperium had introduced a variable that could not be eliminated, only contained. And whether that led to eventual peace or apocalyptic war depended on choices yet to be made. But one thing was certain: the Imperium of Man had come to the Star Wars galaxy, and they would never leave. The galaxy would never be the same. On Coruscant, the Jedi Council debated endlessly about the Imperium threat, some arguing for total war, others for containment and eventual diplomacy. Master Yoda meditated on the cold emptiness he sensed from these warriors, recognizing that they represented something the Jedi had never encountered. An enemy that could not be redeemed because they did not view themselves as fallen. The Imperium believed, with absolute conviction, that their genocidal doctrine was not evil, but necessary. How did one fight belief that absolute? In the Separatist territories, Count Dooku reported to Darth Sidious, both Sith Lords recognizing that the Imperium had become a complication, but also an opportunity. Let the Republic exhaust itself fighting fanatics from another dimension. Let the Jedi waste their strength on an enemy that rejected the Force itself. And when both sides were sufficiently weakened, the Sith would emerge victorious. Order 66 would proceed as planned. The Empire would rise. And the Imperium? They would be dealt with one way or another. On the unnamed world, now designated sanctuary by its new inhabitants, the Imperium built. Tech priests salvaged components from the Litany of Fury, repurposing the cathedral ship into a fortress monastery. Guardsmen drilled recruits from the refugee population, teaching them to fire lasguns and recite Imperial catechisms. Astartes planned strategies for survival in a hostile galaxy, calculating supply chains, recruitment protocols, force multiplication through asymmetric warfare. And Captain Gabriel Cyrene stood atop the highest spire of their new fortress, looking out at twin moons rising over crystalline forests, knowing that his decisions had led them here. Stranded, outnumbered, facing impossible odds, but also knowing that the Imperium had faced impossible odds before and survived through conviction, sacrifice, and an absolute refusal to compromise fundamental principles. They would survive. They would grow. They would plant the Aquila banner across this galaxy, one world at a time. Not in his lifetime, perhaps. Not in his chapter's lifetime. But eventually. Because the Imperium measured time in millennia, not years. Because they believed, with absolute certainty, that humanity's supremacy was not just desired, but inevitable. The Jedi had shown mercy, had chosen pragmatism over revenge, had offered survival instead of slaughter. Captain Cyrene respected that. But mercy was a luxury for the strong, and the Imperium was not yet strong in this galaxy. They were survivors, scavengers, fanatics building an empire from nothing. The Republic had the Jedi and the Force. The Separatists had endless droid armies and corporate wealth. The Sith had millennia of dark knowledge and manipulation. But the Imperium had something none of them possessed. 10,000 years of experience in fighting wars that could not be won, only endured. 10,000 years of turning impossible situations into grinding, bloody stalemates that eventually tilted toward human victory. This galaxy would learn what that experience meant, and whether it learned through diplomacy or destruction was entirely up to the choices made by both sides in the years to come. The Imperium of Man had arrived in the Star Wars galaxy. Some called them monsters. Some called them fanatics. Some called them the most dangerous force the galaxy had ever faced. But they called themselves something simpler, something absolute, something that defined their entire existence. Survivors. And they would survive this too, no matter the cost.